Brett.
I'm American. That's right. I'm American. Got a picture of Reagan above my fire. Next to the deer, I shot with my rifle. NRA, hell yeah, I support him. I hate my job and I hate my boss, but I love my country and I pray to God that the Cowboys win. Just clap your hands if you love our country, if you love our land. That's right. And if you're not clapping your hands, you're a terrorist and you eat sand.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
And I live in America. Come on. And I live in America. I'm American.
We'll talk about Fidel Castro second. For those who tuned in to hear about the life and times of Fidel Castro and the left's meltdown over him being dead and how they tried to praise him. We'll get to that. First off, there was a campus shooting in Ohio, and there's some misinformation. We're going to clear it up right now. It's a Bold Republic radio show, Monday edition. Boy, it's been a busy Monday. Lots to go through, little time to do it. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number to get involved, 844-700-BOLD or 2653. And pretty much everything I talk about and a whole lot more website is boldrepublic.com. Remember, I always tell you guys this. Whenever something is breaking in the news, wait, hold off. Do not believe the first things that you hear, because the story is going to change as the news develops. And I say that out of, well, I've been doing this on radio since 1984. Yeah, I'm getting up there in years, I guess. And in all of that time, I found that to be the case over and over again. So Ohio State University, there was an attack on campus. There was a lockdown. We went through all of this morning, and you heard about multiple shooters and all sorts of other garbage that was thrown out during the course of the day. As the story begins to develop and the true pieces come together, by the way, the conspiracy theorists are already out there with this is a false flag conspiracy theorist, and well, they always do that. And it's old and it's boring, and that's enough with the false flag nonsense. And of course, the anti-gun crowd stepped out there immediately and said, well, there's a campus shooting going on. They start calling for gun control. All right. Step one. Well, I'm going to play this first. There was a press briefing just before I got on the air. And here's what officials had to say. Here's what we know so far. Now listen carefully to some of these details because we're going to pick them apart.
Around 9:52 a.m., the Emergency Dispatch Center got a report that a vehicle had struck pedestrians. At 9:53, an OSU PD officer called out on the radio that shots were fired. He engaged a suspect who had gotten out of the vehicle after hitting pedestrians. The suspect cut multiple individuals. The officer engaged the suspect and shot and killed the suspect. The first Buckeye alert went out at 9:55 to alert the campus community that there was an emergency. Many officers from various different jurisdictions all over the county and outside the county responded immediately. By 11 a.m., the shelter-in-place personnel in the area continue to investigate multiple other things. There are a few buildings that are still closed. We don't have any reports of anything else. We believe the threat was ended when the officer engaged the suspect.
Okay, we'll stop right there. That's basically all we know right now. But now, notice, though, there was a call. Now, this is important. There was a call about shots fired. All right, now here's the latest story that I just got before I got on the air. Story reads near the end of the blog that I was reading, and this is from Hot Air Blog. Ohio State University began to get hints of an active shooter. But as the investigation continues, according to CBS News, there is no evidence of a gun being used by this suspect. I'll do that again. There were reports, shots fired, whatever. But right now, CBS News is saying there's no evidence of a firearm being used by this particular suspect. Okay, so now this is one of those, I'll put that on hold. The first thing you heard was there was an active shooter. Now they're saying we don't have any evidence of a shooting. That's one of those things I'll say to you guys, hold on to that. Don't try to figure it out yet. This is experience in talking to you here. A lot of years of covering this stuff. You don't know if there was or wasn't a gun. But let's stop for a minute and take a look at what we do know. First off, this guy was from Somalia. Apparently, his first name was Mohammed. What does this tell you about people from, look, it is not racist to turn and say, we need to properly vet people coming into this country. It's not racist to say that. So here's a young man from Somalia who apparently was not properly vetted. So we'll just get that out of the way right now. Next, he took his automobile and he started running over people. Now, this is not the first time something like this has happened. There have been times that I've sat in front of this microphone and talked to you guys about an attack on a university in Europe, in America. Last time was in California. One in California, a guy stabbed his roommate. Apparently stabbed another guy while going down to the automobile, got in the automobile, went to the university. I want to say it was San Diego. It's been a while. And then just ran through a bunch of people. And then he got out of his vehicle and had a gun and shot a few people. And what does the media report about the gun? They never mention the knife attack. They never mention the automobile attack. They only go after the gun. And of course, the anti-gun crowd immediately jumps all over the gun. Well, what about the car attack? What about the knife attack? So in this case, this guy who's from Somalia, who apparently was not properly vetted, like we've been warning about, because if he had been properly vetted, well, we could have kept him out of the country and this wouldn't have happened. But he wasn't properly vetted, apparently. Begins his attack with an automobile. When an officer arrived on the scene and engaged him, he was trying to cut people with a knife. Now, there may or may not have been a gun involved. So for all of those anti-gun people out there, I just want to point that out. We don't know if there was a gun involved or not. But we do know there was a guy from Somalia that wasn't properly vetted. And apparently his name, the name too, but it may have been, his name may have been Mohammed. Now, for those of you who are listening to me right now and are thinking, well, you know, you're politicizing this, Glenn. Don't jump all over it, because I've been sitting here all morning long watching this. And immediately I see it being politicized, especially by the anti-gun crowd. They immediately started to politicize this and started talking about gun control. And one thing that has always annoyed me was when the anti-gun crowd will point fingers at us and say, don't you politicize this. And then the next words out of their mouths, they politicize it. So, yeah, they started this. Once again, they started with the politicization, is that a word, of this? If it is a word, I didn't say it right. All right, now, as the story develops, we'll find out a little bit more about who this guy was and perhaps what his motives were. Well, now, we've been through this many times before. I mean, you hear this, his name, which again apparently was Mohammed, and you wonder about his motives. But we're not supposed to bring this kind of stuff up, are we?
6 men have just been charged with conspiracy to murder in connection with a plot to blow up buses and subway cars in London during the summer of 2005.
The 6 would-be suicide bombers charged are Mukhtar Saeed Abraham, Ramzi Mohammed, Yassin Omar, Manfu Asaidu, Adel Yahya, and Hussein Osman.
Since their capture, the big question for Scotland Yard has been, what exactly is it that links these 6 individuals? What common denominator motivated this seemingly random group of young men?
It is puzzling, isn't it? But here to help us untangle this mystery, please welcome international terrorism expert, Dr. Franklin Robertson. Welcome, Doctor. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. here. I got to tell you, you know what this case reminds me of, Doc? A more successful bombing attack in London during July of 2005.
You mean the suicide bombings carried out by Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Shazir Tanweer, Abdullah Shazid Jamal, and Hasbib Hussein, Kurt?
I believe that was them, yes. Now, weren't the two cases kind of similar?
Similar. In what way?
I don't know. Maybe both involved buses, subways, suicide bombers?
You know, Kurt, it's tempting to try to concoct these conspiracy theories to explain these incidents, but most of those just don't hold water.
But, I mean, it could be a conspiracy, couldn't it? I mean, like last August when 10 people were arrested in London for trying to blow up those U.S.-bound airplanes.
Yes. You mean Ahmad, Abdullah Ali, Tanveer Hussein, Umar Islam, Arafat Wahid Khan, Assad Ali Sowar, Adam Khatib, Ibrahim Savan, Wahid Zaman, Qasar Ali, and Moran Hussein?
It does sound like that, yeah. But, Doctor, you can't tell me, besides a desire to blow things up.
Well, if you say so, Kurt, and what might that be?
Okay, well, let's see. Were they all young males?
No, one was a woman.
All right, that's a dead end. Okay, well, how about this? Were they all from the same hometown?
No, they were all from different London suburbs. Not so easy, is it, Kurt?
No.
Those can make you crazy.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Now, funny you should ask that because we just learned that none of them would eat pork. Still don't know what that means yet, but...
Okay. Well, how about this? Were they all going by their original names?
No. Kurt, Umar Islam was born Brian Young, but he changed his name after he converted.
Converted? To what?
Islam.
Oh, geez, another dead end.
Everybody knows Islam is a religion of peace. Yeah. So that doesn't work.
Well, look, we've spent thousands of hours studying this, and frankly, we're stumped.
Well, Doc, you know, you're the expert, and I guess if there were something that linked Mukhtar Saeed Ibrahim, Ramzi Mohammed, Yassin Omar, Manfu Asaidu, Adel Yahya, and Hussein Osman,
Or for that matter, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Shazid Tanweer, Abdullah Shazid Jamal, and Hasbib Hussein.
Yeah, if they had anything linking them, you would have discovered it by now.
Let off a little steam? Yep, that's why we installed phone lines into the studio. Call Glenn now. Old Republic is on the air.
Stan, why are you wearing a sweater with a bullseye?
It's hunting season,
So,
and there are hunters everywhere.
okay, but why the bullseye?
Well, if everyone's been shopping at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports,
That's bad.
the way I figure it, we don't stand a chance.
Oh, good point. We don't stand a chance.
Might as well give them a clean shot. With everything you need for hunting season, Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, with locations in Casper, Gillette, Riverton, Sheridan, and Cody, Wyoming.
Hello, Americans. Rod here with my Made in America store. Remember when you had to go to an import store to buy things not made in the USA? Today, it's the other way around. With your help, we can change that. At my Made in America store, we stock only USA-made products. From flags to clothing to artwork, kitchenware, kids' toys. Let's put America back to work. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com. Never forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters.
Are you tired of viruses, spam, complying with the law? Then you need DCmatic, the government email server you keep at the house. DCmatic helps protect against annoying viruses like Heartbleed, Stuxnet, and the American people. Here's how it works. First, select some government business you'd like to conceal from the public. Then, simply use DCmatic's proprietary privacy control to make sure it's gone forever. Is this illegal? It's not illegal. Having two email addresses is confusing and terrible. It'd be like having two bachelorettes. But don't take my word for it. Listen to this testimonial. Hello, Oversight Committee. Did you receive the entirety of the emails I sent during my 4 years at the State Department? You received them both? Great. Thanks, DCmatic. Gone are the days of creating fake email aliases and destroying hard drives. What? That's currently happening. But wait, there's more. Order in the next 10 minutes and we'll also include this free pamphlet of press conference tips.
I thought using one device would be simpler, and obviously it hasn't worked out that way.
DCmatic. When your ideas are so good, you don't want voters to know what they are. Order today.
Dedicated, reliable-ish, hardworking from 10 to 3 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They are the American bureaucrat because the engine that was America's progress and success was running a little too fast and efficient. Who knows where all of this innovation and success was going? So for the good of the nation, somebody needed to slow it down. It took a lot of paper to jam up those gears of progress, but no one knows paper like the bureaucrat. And America was too rich compared to the rest of the world. Can't have that. No one knows how to make your money disappear like the proud men and women of the American bureaucracy. So, America, take all your great ideas and big dreams and the American bureaucracy has a ton of paperwork and a line for you to stand in. Bureaucracy, slowing progress and freedom for a more humble America.
This show runs on lots of cigars and lots of coffee. So it's sort of like a London fog look in the studio.
With that hyper-nervous feeling as if Jack the Ripper was on the loose.
Creepy, but entertaining. It's Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Public Radio Show, Monday edition. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number to get involved, easy to do, 844-700-BOLD or 2653, and pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more. Website is boldrepublic.com. So apparently the communist dictator Fidel Castro, who was always fighting capitalism, died on Good Friday. I call that sweet poetic justice. I don't know what you guys quite think of it, but it's sweet poetic justice. What do you think? Okay, well, let's take a look at some of the life and times of Fidel Castro, but also this. Now, Jill Stein, we'll get back to her later today because she's involved in more than one thing, but she was the Green Party candidate for president of the United States, and she's really good at making a lot of news. All right, so as a Green Party candidate, Castro, symbol of the struggle for justice in the shadow of empire. Really? And then says presidential. Really? Jill Stein, he was the symbol of the struggle for justice in the shadow of empire. Empire, who would that be? Oh, yeah, the United States of America. I see. That's who Fidel Castro was. Oh, okay. And, of course, she's catching a lot of heat for this. I got a question for you. What is it with people on the left that they just can't engage in this kind of reality? They can't see Fidel Castro for who he really was, a murdering dictator. One of the stories that I was watching today, when I was prepping for all of this, they were interviewing a woman whose family they were Cuban refugees. And one of the reasons that she left was because her father just couldn't stand it anymore. He was having a nervous breakdown, basically, because every so often firing squads would show up and I grew up in South Florida, Southwest Florida, other side of the coast from Miami. Not unusual for refugees to build boats out of whatever they could find and then come flooding over here by the thousands. And there were times when Castro tried to stop those refugees from leaving, and not only would he have them hauled back and thrown into jail, some he just had they were just shot right there in the water on whatever raft they were clinging to. This was Fidel Castro. Now, there was a congresswoman, Diane Watson. Some years ago, I remember Diane Watson talking about this, and I remember playing this on the air at the time she said it. You want to talk about bizarre. This is a woman who does not know her history. Listen carefully to what she says about and Cuba. Listen to this.
Did anyone say anything about the Cuban health system? And let me tell you, before you say, oh, it's coming, you need to go down there and see what Fidel Castro put in place. And I want you to know, now, you can think whatever you want to about Fidel Castro, but he was one of the brightest leaders I have ever met.
Oh, God, here it comes. Wait, hang on. The best is yet to come.
You know, the Cuban Revolution that kicked out the wealthy, Che Guevara did that. And then after they took over, they went out among the population to find someone who could lead this new nation. And they found, well, just leave it there.
Okay, just leave it right there. Okay, first off, Che Guevara did not lead the Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro did. So her take on history, her understanding of history, is that Che Guevara kicked out all the rich people and made it a land where everybody was equal and so on. Social justice, all of that garbage. And then they went looking for a leader, and they found a lawyer living in the countryside, and they said, will you be our leader? And that's not what happened. It was a bloody takeover by a communist named Fidel Castro, and Che Guevara worked for him. This is Glenn, who's on the phone.
Hey, Glenn, this is Tim.
Yes, sir. What you got?
Hey, you know, I am so absolutely sick, disgusting, and fed up with the celebrities and, even worse yet, our own elected officials praising the scumbag dictator Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
I mean, how can these people look at themselves in a mirror and praise a murdering genocidal maniac?
Well, because they discount the fact that he was a murdering genocidal maniac, because Tim, he gave everybody free health care and he made sure everybody got an education.
Well, I guess that's why they must ignore the fact, too, that so many of the Cubans wanted to jump on homemade rafts made out of everything from refrigerators to garbage cans and float 90 miles across to the Florida Keys.
And you and I grew up in Florida watching that happen right there on our own beaches, right?
Let's go by and the refugees go by at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you
and
know what? Friday was a magical day for me.
Was it?
Well, it started out really nice. I found out that Fidel had died, which, you know, it was ironic that he fought capitalism and died on Black Friday.
That was really great that he died in that day. Yeah,
but
that made my day.
My day was capped off perfectly when I went to go tweet Rosie O'Donnell for insinuating that Donald Trump's son, 10-year-old son, was autistic.
Mhm.
And I found out that she blocked me.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Tim. What a perfect end to a perfect day.
Check out the YouTube videos. See what Glenn's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can find out more at boldrepublic.com.
How important is it for you to take your medications at the right time of day? Very important, according to today's AARP health tip. More after this.
At Walgreens, getting diabetes testing supplies with Medicare Part B is a walk in the park. Really, because getting what you need is quick and easy, giving you more time for other things. There's $0 out of pocket on all major brands like Freestyle and Walgreens True Metrics, and no extra paperwork. So managing diabetes becomes a stroll down Easy Street, or a trip to the movies, or even a day at the beach. Talk to your pharmacist today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Zero out-of-pocket costs when billed to Medicare and full coverage supplemental insurance.
Some drugs are best used in the morning. Others should be taken in the evening or right before going to bed. There's a science to timing drugs to achieve the greatest benefit with the lowest risk of unpleasant side effects. It's called drug chronotherapy. So never change the timing of your drugs without first discussing it with your doctor or pharmacist. For more, go to aarp.org.
Bold Republic.
So you think you can get away from it all? Just do a little bit of hiking by a lake in Wyoming on a fall day, maybe some fishing because there's really not anyone out on the lake at all. Whatever you do, don't eat the little berries that you find on the ground. Then I come across this carved into the rock. Okay, if you're going to take the time to carve something into stone for future generations, carving the F-bomb or a swatch sticker, really? That's what you got? Come on, man. Think of something worthwhile. So just when I thought I was able to get away from it all, now I'm thinking about, well, racism for one. From Nazis to today's neo-Nazis to the Black Panthers to today's Black Lives Matter.
The Black Lives Matter organization is now the new KKK. The KKK was the enforcement arm of the Democrat Party. Like I said in the previous video about the KKK, comparing them to the Black Panthers. There's not much of a difference between the KKK and also not much of a difference between Black Lives Matter, the KKK, and the Black Panthers.
All white people to move to the back.
It should come as no shock that Black Lives Matter supporters took to Twitter to celebrate the deaths of the Dallas police officers who were shot and killed just a few weeks ago. Dallas must burn. Black Lives Matter now. Got the message, pigs. All those Dallas pigs that got bodied deserved it. If you're a regular cops shot in Dallas, pray they don't survive.
Racism on college campi.
A college has created a safe space from white people on campus where white students are not allowed.
I mean, professors teaching racism to their students.
We're talking about whiteness as a system of oppression.
And then stupidly trying to convince us that they can't be racist.
Racism presupposes the ability to control a significant segment of the population economically, politically, and socially by imposing law, covenant, and restriction on their lives. Black people ain't had no capacity to do that. Can we be bigoted? Yes. Can we be prejudiced? Yes. Racist? No.
Let's face it, Martin Luther King Jr. got it right.
They will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
You can't fight racism with hatred. And if you're going to carve something on a rock, someplace as pristine as this, carve something inspiring, for God's sakes.
I was born in Greece in 1939. Nazi warplanes bombed us unmercifully. Executions in the streets were common. I saw horror you could never imagine. Human beings became animals, starving and desperate. But me, I was lucky. And I cried. I've been blessed by the freedom and opportunity only America can offer. Today, I feel a duty to speak out. There will always be evil in this world, but the one thing that separates America from every other country is our freedom. And the one freedom that protects all the others is our Second Amendment. Never give it up. Never. I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I am freedom's safest place.
Hey, Ben Gillette here. Being a libertarian means being skeptical of power. Skeptical there's one way to do things. Is there going to be one way of living that's going to make you, Justin Bieber, Pat Robertson, Marilyn Manson, Hillary Clinton, me, and your Aunt Olga all equally happy? It all comes down to this. Maybe I know the best way to live my life, but wow, I sure don't know the best way to live yours. So why not err on the side of more freedom, respect for what makes us different? If you think I want to learn more, go to libertarianism.org. We've got podcasts and videos, original source material, and essays all about the idea of using a little more liberty. Libertarianism.org.
It's a Monday edition of the Bold Republic radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, Fidel Castro's dead. So, yeah. No, I think after all that he's done, all of the horrifying things that he's done over the years, we can go ahead and give a little bit more than that. Fidel Castro's dead. So, good. And what is it with the left trying to praise this guy? It's bad enough that there's ignorant people walking around out there with Che Rivera shirts on, and they have no idea who Che Rivera is or what he did. Then I just played for you a quote of that congresswoman who thinks that Che Rivera kicked all of the evil rich people out. And then they went looking for a leader, and they found this lawyer in the countryside, and that was Fidel, which is not at all how it happened. Fidel Castro overthrew the government of Cuba in a bloody rebellion. And the body count and the mass graves after that, dear God. And Che Rivera was a guy who worked for Fidel. They were partners and buddies. I don't know where she got that story from. But it gets worse. Get a load of this one. Justin Trudeau, former UK Prime Minister. I'm sorry, did I say UK? No, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. After talking about how he was deeply saddened at Castro's passing, went on to describe a larger-than-life leader who made significant improvements to Cuba's education and healthcare system. Then Marco Rubio, who, by the way, family Cuban refugees, tweets, "Is this a real statement or a parody? Because if this is a real statement, the Prime Minister of Canada is shameful and embarrassing." Later on, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau backtracked on what he was saying. Well, I guess he was a dictator and all of that. Now, I just named the two things that the left probably forgives Castro for everything because of these two things. You remember Michael Moore did his movie Sicko. And Michael Moore got on a boat with a bunch of really sick people who needed, and talked about how wonderful the Cuban healthcare system was. Well, everybody gets free healthcare, so it must be a wonderful system. Cuban healthcare is it's not the worst healthcare in the world, but it's real close to it. It's like right near the bottom, problem like fifth from the bottom. It's just that bad. But because he gives everybody free healthcare, it doesn't matter the quality of the healthcare. The fact that the healthcare is free is what they brag about. Then everybody is educated because, Cuba didn't have much for education, and not many people could read in Cuba. But under Fidel Castro, everybody can read. Okay, yes, everybody can now read in Cuba. Great. But the quality of education beyond that it's atrocious. These are not well-educated people. This is not a country that has an education system to be proud of by any nation at all. So the idea that, everybody gets an education and it's free healthcare, but it's a horrible education and it's horrible healthcare. And what about the mass graves? What about the police state? What about the people in prisons because of what there's no freedom of speech there. No freedom of thought. No democracy there. It's a dictatorship. Now, on that note, I went looking for some of the best memes. I was having fun with this. Since I mentioned dictatorship, I had to take a look at this to make sure it was right, because with a lot of memes, you got to source material, this stuff here, to find out. And I found out this is from a good source that I trust. Let's go through it. How does your favorite news organization talk about Fidel Castro? And that will tell you a lot about politically where they are. So various news organizations describe Fidel Castro, November 26, 2016, the day he died. The BBC used the word President Fidel Castro. So did U.S. News. Bloomberg said President Fidel Castro. Now, CNN described Fidel Castro as a leader, as did PBS. They called him a leader. Chicago Tribune called Fidel Castro a leader, as well as the San Francisco Chronicle, Yahoo News, AOL News. Now, ABC News described Fidel Castro as a revolutionary leader, as did the LA Times, New York Times. The Seattle PI for Pi, called Fidel Castro an icon. So you understand who the leftists are. When you see stuff like this, you understand who the leftists are. Right? Okay. Now, Google News called Fidel Castro a dictator. NBC News called him a dictator. Fox News called him a dictator. Washington Post called him a dictator. Herald Sun called Fidel Castro a dictator. Okay, well, at least you can say that they engage in real news, don't they? Now, the number of people on the left who stepped up and praised Fidel Castro or said anything nice about him shows people who are absolutely ignorant of history. Tim from Tampa was just on the phone with me just before the last break. You heard us talking about that. We both grew up in Florida. We're used to seeing, and it's still happening to this day, by the way. We're used to seeing the rafts arriving on our shores. They make rafts out of anything that they can. And they come to America risking their lives. Grandma, little children strapped to the rafts, and off they go. By the way, shark-infested waters, just so you know. Now, remember, I grew up in that area, so I know what I'm talking about. Shark-infested waters. Now, I've often said, you don't see anybody defecting to Cuba. Now, when I say that, people will turn and say, no. There were hijacked airplanes. Yes, there was a time where a few hijacked airplanes made it to Cuba. That was a long time since that last happened. But those hijacked airplanes that made it to Cuba, the reason that they were doing that were these were people who were wanted by the United States government for some crime. They had committed a crime here in the United States. They were running from the law, so they hijacked an airplane to Cuba, figuring living in Cuba has got to be better than prison in America. Well, that's a big mistake. Other than that, in all my time growing up in Florida, I have never seen anybody ever build a raft and paddle to Cuba. I have never seen, in fact, Haitian refugees, look on a map where Haiti is. You'll find it to the east and a little bit south of Cuba. Haitian refugees do not build rickety rafts and then paddle just a few miles to Cuba, which they could because Cuba's right there. When you look at where Haiti is, Cuba is right there. Instead, they paddle all the way to Florida. Now, as you're looking at the map, you see where Haiti is, you see where Cuba is, look where Florida is, and you realize how long of a journey that is in a rickety old raft. And you realize that they are willing to put their lives and the lives of their loved ones that much at risk just to avoid Cuba and get to the United States.
Everything Glenn talks about is on his website, and that website is updated daily to keep you informed and scared.
You know, a lot of people buy expensive razors to get a great shave. Some people even belong to Razor Club. And while a good razor certainly does go a long way, none of that means a thing if you haven't properly prepared your face or your legs or your underarms or wherever for that shave. It's the preparation that's the key. That's where Shave Secret comes in. You don't need any soaps or oils or aftershave, none of that. Shave Secret is the best shave ever. Simply put, the best shave ever. 100% natural oils. Comes in a little bottle that looks like an eyedropper bottle. Just wet the face, 3 drops. It doesn't even lather. It'll help heal any nicks and cuts, helps with dry skin, rashes, shave bumps, ingrown hairs, and a whole lot more. And it's the perfect size to travel with, too. Look them up online. Shave Secret. It's simply the best shave ever. A 100% natural product that'll prepare your face for the shave. Shave Secret.
If you're a hunter or angler, you've probably heard of nice-sounding groups like the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, the Isaac Walton League, and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Even though the news media quotes them and treats them like sportsman groups, they're actually green decoys. What's a green decoy? A sportsman group in name only that is really just a front for the radical liberal foundations that fund them. Foundations with histories of anti-gun, anti-energy, and pro-labor union policies. TRCP has accepted money from the Chicago-based Joyce Foundation, which is one of the biggest opponents of the National Rifle Association and gun rights. To understand the political leanings of the Joyce Foundation, you only need to know that Barack Obama used to be a board member. Big wig labor bosses gave TRCP $1.2 million to lure gun-owning union members away from the NRA. The Isaac Walton League of America's National Office, meanwhile, has taken millions from the anti-gun Joyce Foundation. Perhaps most brazen is Land Tawney, who is the executive director of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Tawney helped raise and spend over $1 million to defeat a Republican Senate candidate in Montana and publicly supported President Obama's re-election. His group claims to represent hunters, but gets most of its money from 3 liberal foundations and even supports massive federal land grabs. To learn more about these green decoy groups that are being funded by radical left-wing foundations, visit greendecoys.com.
There are some who'd like for us to imagine a world without coal-based electricity. Okay then, let's see what that would look like. Without coal-based power plants, we wouldn't have reliable electricity. Electricity prices would rise, local communities would lose jobs, and our national economy would suffer. So yes, we can imagine a world without coal, and it's a pretty scary place to be. Fact is, we need coal-based electricity for reliable power, for affordable energy, for strong jobs that contribute to a stronger U.S. economy, for global competitiveness. That's why coal-based electricity is such an important part of our energy solutions, now and for many years to come.
Sorting through the nonsensical nonsense that makes your life a living hell. It's Glenn Woods. OldRepublic.com.
It's the Bold Public Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number to get involved, 844-700-BOLD or 2653. And pretty much everything I'm talking about, a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. Right now I'm talking about Fidel Castro. And the real Fidel Castro, not the Castro that the left fantasizes about. And dear God, the stories that I hear them tell of this guy. But again, you offer free health care. It doesn't have to be good health care. It doesn't matter that they're among the worst hospitals in the world. If Cuba offers free health care, then Castro gets a pass. It doesn't matter that if the education system in Cuba is about the worst in the world, if you offer free education for everybody, then they praise, well, they got free education over there. Doesn't matter that it's the worst education on the planet because it's communism. Who cares about that? So normally I save the meme stream for a Friday show. If you don't know the meme stream, folks, I think internet memes are either the most brilliant things you've ever read in your life or the dumbest things that you've ever read in your life, which is why I collect them. And every Friday I go through the best memes that are out there. So this one I'm going to do early today because these were just too good. First one came from actually a tweet. Educated Hillbilly is the name of this guy. And I like Rob Price is his name. I got to find him on Twitter and follow him. This is good. Liberals who spend a year calling Trump a fascist are today praising Fidel Castro. You can't make this up. I got to read that again because that was that good. Liberals who spend a year calling Trump a fascist today are praising Fidel Castro. You can't make this stuff up. See, memes are either that brilliant or they're the dumbest things you've ever come across. Here's the next one. I'm confused. You call Trump an evil dictator, but praise Fidel Castro. Are your parents brother and sister? Yeah, I kind of think they probably are. Here's another one. Shows Fidel Castro and just names some of the atrocities. No religious freedom. Homosexuals are sent to work camps. Threw people in prison for, well, on a whim, especially if they voiced their opinions and he didn't like their opinions. Killed innocent civilians. Political prisoners for a whole host of problems. Conspired against America. Kept people poor while he got stinking rich. Typical communism. Then you see a screaming, bedwetting, safety pin liberal, diaper pin wearing liberal, crying her eyes out. But he gave people free health care in college, and he's my hero. Stop lying about him. Where's my safety pin? I need my safety pin. Probably one of the truest memes out there today. Then there's this one. His whole life fighting capitalism died on Black Friday. Now, this one, I had to make sure it was correct. It was put out by the Heritage Foundation, so I trust the sourcing on this. So, of millennials, how many have never heard of Mao Zedong? 42%. Wow. But then again, if they had heard of him, they probably heard of him from their college professors who said good things about him. Of millennials, how many have never heard of Che Rivera? About 40%, according to the Heritage Foundation, even though you see kids walking around with Che Rivera t-shirts on, but they have no idea the guy was a mass murderer, basically. Of millennials, how many have never heard of Vladimir Lenin? 33%. Yet out of those who have heard of him, they probably heard of him from their college professors. And so, they probably heard good things about him. Drop that in. I'm going to bring those up again on Friday because I guarantee I'll have more of those between now and Friday when I open up the meme stream again. Go to my reading assignment page. Go to boldrepublic.com. Go to my reading assignment page. You can also find this story on National Review because that's where I sourced it from. From National Review, there's more than enough evidence to judge Castro's legacy for what it is. The systematic exploitation and oppression of the Cuban people. Remember, Castro got stinking rich, as all communist leaders do. He got stinking rich while his people starved. Look at any communist nation. You want to talk about the 1%. In any communist nation you go to, the top 1% are in government, and they are fat. And people are starving. Story reads, 2 decades of Castro is dead rumors are finally at an end. And the race is on to see which world leader can most fulsomely praise Fidel Castro's legacy, while delicately averting their eyes from his less savory characteristics, and that's putting it mildly. To duly elect leaders of democracies who should know better, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and American President Barack Obama are leading the way. Mr. Trudeau praised Castro as a legendary revolutionary orator, significant improvements to the education and healthcare of his island nation. Mr. Obama offered condolences to the Cuban people and blandly suggested that history will record and judge the enormous impact of this single figure. We now look to the future, he said. With all due respect to Mr. Obama, the 60 years of Fidel Castro spent systematically exploiting and oppressing the people of Cuba prove more than enough history to pass judgment on him right now. Now, this writer says, my own family experience is a case in point. So who is this writer? Ted Cruz is writing what I'm reading right now. Ted Cruz, writing for National Review. He says, my own family experience is a case in point. My father, Raphael, an early supporter of the revolution against Batista, and spent time in prison. His teeth kicked in for his efforts. He fled the island, only to return to what he hoped would be a liberated Cuba. Instead, found a even more brutal form of repression, Fidel Castro regime. In the 1960s, Castro was jailed and tortured for that. The betrayal and violence, writes Ted Cruz, experienced by my father and aunt were all too typical of millions of Cubans who have suffered under Castro regime over the last 6 decades. This is not the stuff of Cold War history that can be swept under the rug simply because Fidel is dead, writes Ted Cruz. Consider, for example, the dissidents, well, there's several, who warned in the summer of 2013 that Castro, then on the ropes because of the reduction in, because Venezuela was in trouble, therefore Cuba was in trouble. They were relying on each other. And the people are being more oppressed because of it. And when we look at Venezuela, we can see exactly what he's talking about, folks. Venezuela has fallen. You know, it used to be that Cuba got what they needed, food and supplies, because the Soviet Union was sending them what they needed. When the Soviet you want to read the whole thing in its entirety. I don't have time on today's show, and it's quite lengthy, and it's written by Ted Cruz, and it's why we should never look at anything more, when we look at Fidel Castro, think of him as anything more than a murdering dictator, which is exactly what he was. A guy who exploited the people for his own gains and lived rich because of it. And yet the left will forgive him because he provided free health care and everybody got an education. Again, about the worst health care on the planet and about the worst education on the planet are in Cuba. But that doesn't matter to the left because of their idea of everything happens for free through the government, therefore. And it doesn't matter that Castro brothers got stinking rich on the backs of the people while the people starved. That doesn't matter to them. The death camps and prison camps don't mean a thing to those on the left in America.
You critics don't define our honor. You try we will never back down from our sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We wake up every day, put on our badge, strap a gun to our families to buy, and put our lives between the law-abiding and any criminal who threatens their rights. We serve people of every color and creed, men, women, and children in violent, dangerous neighborhoods, because they have the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as CEOs, movie stars, and the political elite. We are Americans, and we are the American police officer. We stand with the National Rifle Association of America, and the NRA stands with us. Together, we're freedom's safest place.
It's the Obama administration bankruptcy liquidation sale. Everything must go. Solar panels at greatly discounted prices. Get them now before we throw them in the trash. Windmills bigger than you've ever seen. Never before driven. Limited mileage. Chevy Volts at rock bottom prices. Get them now before they catch on fire too. It's the Obama administration liquidation bankruptcy sale. If it's green, it's gone.
Which American states are most tolerant of both ganja and guns? Which states best protect your home and other property? Which states put more and fewer people in jail? Which states regulate the most and fewest occupations? And overall, which states interfere with your life the least? Find out where your state ranks in the Cato Institute's new report, Freedom in the 50 States.
BoldRepublic.com.
And while President-elect Donald Trump is spending Thanksgiving weekend at his resort in Mar-a-Lago, he's already planned transition meetings for next week. One America's Emily Miller has a story from Washington.
President-elect Donald Trump has had dozens of meetings to help carefully pick his cabinet. And he has a full slate of meetings on Monday at Trump Tower.
Sheriff David Clark from Milwaukee County was the only elected Democrat who campaigned for Donald Trump. In an interview after he spoke at the Republican convention, we asked him if he would serve in the cabinet if Trump was elected.
If Donald Trump were to ask me to serve in his cabinet at some level, I'd be more than happy to step up and serve and help him turn this country around and make America great again.
On a conference call with reporters on Friday, we asked Trump spokesman Sean Spicer if Sheriff Clark was up for Homeland Security Secretary. Clark would be the first member of law enforcement to run Homeland. Spicer said all the president-elect's meetings were open-minded to determine where people fit best in his administration. Other meetings with elected officials on Monday include Congressman Lou Barletta, Republican of Pennsylvania, who is on the transition team's executive committee, and Scott Pruitt, the Attorney General of Oklahoma, and a reported contender to run the Environmental Protection Agency. Kathleen White is also on the EPA shortlist and is an expert on energy and environment. She, too, is on the transition team. The other Monday meetings are with successful secretary. He's a director at Investment Bank and former president of the Cato Institute, the libertarian think tank. Sandeep Mathrani is chief executive of a real estate investment firm, General Growth Properties. Also David Stewart, CEO of Worldwide Technology. And Paul Atkins is a former Security and Exchange Commissioner. Posts.
Trump's transition team said that he will be making no more announcements about cabinet picks until after all these meetings on Monday. Emily Miller, One America News, Washington.
How do you stop a terrorist from waking up tomorrow and shooting everyone in Times Square? That threat is on the president's desk every single morning, and our failure to take it seriously proves how weak we've become. That's what happens when the country is run by political and media cowards who cling to their naive belief that the whole world shares our values. Even when Americans are slaughtered by hate-filled jihadists on our own soil, radical Islam is as evil, violent, and threatening to the future of the world as the Nazis were. It is a tragedy that at a time of such confusion, America is led by people so gutless that instead of identifying the enemy, they distract us with political attacks on the gun rights of the law-abiding. I don't know what motivates politicians, but I know the rule of war. The weak get slaughtered, and we are at war. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Why does Baltimore not allow me to sell pizza within 300 feet of another pizzeria?
Why is it easier to start
in your way? Have you ever stopped and asked why? Why does it have to be this way? Why does this regulation even exist? Asking such simple questions is easy, but holding government regulators accountable and getting answers is hard. That's because too many government regulations are nearly impossible to justify. At the Institute for Justice, every day we ask why, and we call this economic liberty. It is the constitutional right Americans have to work hard, make a living, and support yourself. So when Baltimore told Joey Venoni that he couldn't operate his food truck near similar brick-and-mortar restaurants, we asked,
why?
And when Louisiana threatened to shut down Lotta Jagtiani for the simple and safe fact of threading eyebrows, we again asked,
why?
Across the country, IJ has partnered with small business entrepreneurs to go to court and ask governments big and small to answer one simple question.
Why?
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 Just ask why.
So the next time the government gets in your way, will you join us in asking why?
New Englanders pay some of the highest electricity prices in the country, over 50% more than the rest of the nation. It doesn't have to be this way. Affordable natural gas produces more than half of the region's electricity, but our infrastructure, it's not keeping pace. Our pipelines are maxed out, especially when the weather is cold and demand is high, causing supply problems and higher prices. But with new or expanded gas pipelines, we could save billions in energy cost and protect more than 160,000 jobs. The best part? The world's most abundant natural gas supply is nearby. Greater access to clean burning natural gas can reduce our sky-high electricity prices, power the economy, and put more money back in families' pockets. Learn more at www.energytomorrow.org.
Some thoughts from senior political analyst Britt Hume on this speech. Good evening, Britt.
Hi, Brett. Hello, Brett. Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
Brett.
I'm American. That's right. I'm American. Got a picture hanging above my fire. Next to the deer I shot with my rifle. NRA, hell yeah, I support them. I hate my job and I hate my boss, but I love my country and I pray to God that the Cowboys win. Just clap your hands if you love our country, if you love our land. That's right. And if you're not clapping your hands, you're a terrorist and you eat sand.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
And I live in America. Come on. And I live in America. I'm American.
It is a Monday edition of the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. For the next few minutes of the program, we get to pick on Hillary. Thought you were done with her? Oh, come on now. It's next up phone number here, 844-700-BOLD or 2653. And as always, pretty much everything that I talk about and a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. I told you she was like a horror movie. That just when you thought the creature was dead, she would come back. For anyone who thought, oh, good, we're finally done with Hillary. Please, did you really think it was going to be that easy? Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to do this. I intentionally did not put all of this stuff away. It's the Hillary song.
I am Rodham, hear me glow about the women who will vote for a commie pink lefty hippie hat. I am Rodham, you can say, don't you bring up Benghazi, 'cause I don't care now, what difference does it make? Oh yes, I lied, 'cause the truth is hard for me. I guess my hands are tied, foreign bribes are ruling me. If I have to, I can say anything. I am wrong, I am invincible, I am wrong.
I guarantee you that's not going to be the last time I play that song. Now, okay, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. So, Hillary, well, if I don't, people are going to call me and give me a hard time. And I can honestly say that because one time I was doing the program and I didn't do that and people were giving me a hard time. So, if you don't remember where that's from, let me know what rock you've been living under. But here we go.
I am Paul Brucher.
Greatest movies in the history of great American movies. We do that every time we talk about Hillary. And now we're done. Just had to go ahead and get that out of the way. So here's the latest, and I'm surprised I've come across a few people. I know it was a Thanksgiving holiday weekend and there was a lot going on, but I'm surprised how many people did not know that Hillary Clinton is challenging the election results. No, well, I guess I can give you the excuse if you didn't know that. But has decided that in a few places around the country, a few key states, it looks like the vote was close enough that perhaps they can go ahead and get a recount and contest because there might be voter fraud. What does that sound like to you? Who was saying that they didn't trust the rigged system? Why, that was Donald Trump who was saying he didn't trust the rigged system. And then after Jill Stein in order to get this done, she had to raise her own money to do it because the states aren't going to do it. She has to raise the money to get it done. The states will let her, but the election wasn't so close that the states would pay for it. But wasn't it Donald Trump talking about a rigged system? And Hillary was making fun of him for that? I seem to remember that. And now here's Hillary joining with Jill Stein talking about a rigged system and that they're going to have this recount done. Okay, look, she has every right to do that. She has every right. I'm not going to say that Hillary doesn't have the right to do that, but let's take a look at a couple of things. One, I'm in the state of Wyoming. In the state of Wyoming, I pulled up the numbers. Bernie Sanders got 56% of the vote in the state of Wyoming. Bernie Sanders got 56% of the vote in Wyoming. Of the Democrats. Okay. Hillary Clinton got 44% of the Democrat vote during the Democrat primary. Yet somehow, Hillary walked away with 11 delegates. Bernie Sanders got 7 delegates. And Hillary also walked away from Wyoming with several super delegates. Bernie got none. So if she wants to step up and talk about a recount and how it's not fair that I won the popular vote, but I didn't get the presidency, well, excuse me, Bernie Sanders, Wyoming. And that wasn't the only state. So I can call her out on hypocrisy for that. But then there was this moment. I bring you back to the third presidential debate when Donald Trump was asked, when the election is done, you worry about a rigged system, will you abide by the results? And Trump said, well, it depends on what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. It depends. To which Hillary responded like this.
That is not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them. And that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. You know, President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job. And let's be clear about what he is saying and what that means. He is denigrating, he's talking down our democracy. And I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our two major parties would take that kind of position.
Okay, now, for the record now, that's what Hillary said. Once again, look, if she wants to go ahead and contest the results, she has every right to do so. Go for it, do so. Hey, Hillary, for the record, that makes you a liar, and that makes you a hypocrite.
You can't handle the truth.
So, there, take that. She is. She's a liar. For all you Democrats out there who are cheering that Hillary's stepping up because you see a glimmer of hope. Hillary's stepping up and contesting the results. I will not argue with her or with you that she has the right to do that. She absolutely has the right. Let her go contest. For the record, she is a liar and a hypocrite. For the record, those of you who are now cheering Hillary, you are the same ones who cheered her when she said that to Donald Trump. I am appalled that he would stand up on a debate stage. 240 years of history. We just accept the results. At the time, Hillary was just assuming she was going to win the election. And everything turns and changes 180 degrees the moment she doesn't, which means, once again, Hillary is a liar. Hillary is a hypocrite. Now, for those who worry, I've been watching this closely to try to figure out, is there anything there? Is there anything we really have to worry about with Hillary actually being able to contest this thing? And there are Democrats out there trying to get electors to flip their votes. Because remember, the real election is the Electoral College. Now, for those out there, well, there's not enough electors wanting to flip their votes. Last I heard, there were like 6. There's not enough out there to make any kind of a difference, so that's not going to happen. As far as the states where she's wanting to recount, Yes, Trump won by a narrow margin. Trigger a recount. He's going to win the recount. They can go ahead and try all they want. But now, for those out there, I came across something today which made me stop and think, I hadn't thought about this in so long. People are wondering why we elect our presidents the way that we do. What's with this electoral college? Shouldn't we get rid of the electoral college? And I'm going to go way back in history. I mean, way back. Someone that our founding fathers were reading, they were reading him as they were trying to figure out how to set up the American form of government, which is a type of democracy, but really we are a republic. So with that in mind, why would we have an electoral college? Let's go back to what Plato said. Yeah, that far back. I was reviewing this today. I'd forgotten all about it. So Plato was arguing with someone, debating someone about democracy. And what Plato said was, I want you to imagine that everybody's on board, the whole population's on board a big ship. Now we're going to be going through bad weather, storms, swells, okay, all sorts of problems. If it's a democracy, do you really want a bunch of people on board the ship who have no idea how to operate a ship, how to sail a ship through all of that? You want them making the decision, the masses making it? That's going to be chaos, especially when they disagree with each other. Or would you rather have people running the ship who actually are trained in how to run these ships? So when they hit the foul weather, when they have to navigate, whatever the case may be, they have to do it. That's one of the reasons that we in America now have a republic. The idea is this. We don't go by the popular vote here. Different experts in whatever field stand up and say, I'll take that job, and we get to hear, we listen to what they have to say. They even have to debate each other over who has the best plan. And we pick the best person for the job. In this case, we pick the captains of the ship, the captain of the ship, and the crew. We elect them. And hopefully we elect them based on experience, or they have some skill set. The passengers step back and let them steer the ship. That's why America is a republic. A ship like that has a much better chance of making it through the voyage.
This is a generic liner. Kind of boring, isn't it? A lot of people buy expensive razors to get a great shave. Some people even belong to Razor Club. And while a good razor certainly does go a long way, none of that means a thing if you haven't properly prepared your face or your legs or your underarms or wherever for that shave. It's the preparation that's the key. That's where Shave Secret comes in. You don't need any soaps or oils or aftershave, none of that. Shave Secret is the best shave ever. Simply put, the best shave ever. 100% natural oils. Comes in a little bottle that looks like an eyedropper bottle. Just wet the face, 3 drops. It doesn't even lather. It'll help heal any nicks and cuts, helps with dry skin, rashes, shave bumps, ingrown hairs, and a whole lot more. And it's a perfect size to travel with, too. Look them up online. Shave Secret. It's simply the best shave ever. A 100% natural product that'll prepare your face for the shave. Shave Secret.
You critics don't define our honor. You to fear us, crowds to attack us, and good people to doubt us. But we will never back down from our sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We wake up every day, put on our badge, strap a gun to our hips, kiss our families goodbye, and put our rights. We serve people of every color and creed, men, women, and children in violent, dangerous neighborhoods, because they have the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as CEOs, movie stars, and the political elite. We are Americans, and we are the American police officer. We stand with the National Rifle Association of America, and the NRA stands with us. Together, we're freedom's safest place.
Over the next 4 years, liberal policies of more spending, higher taxes, and a growing dependence on government will threaten America's future. Now more than ever, conservatives must take a stand.
This is the greatest country on earth. We are a leader for the world, and we need to continue to be.
The Heritage Foundation will take a stand, and we will lead the charge in offering principled solutions to America's biggest challenges, from spending and tax reform to reducing the size of government and maintaining a strong national defense. Call 1-855-502-2927 to join the Heritage Foundation today and receive a Heritage membership pack that includes a free pocket constitution, a subscription to our daily e-newsletter, The Morning Bell, and a window sticker that tells the nation you stand with Heritage. Call 1-855-502-2927 right now.
I consider the Heritage Foundation to be my voice in Washington.
Take a stand for conservative principles. Call 1-855-502-2927 right now.
Which American states are most tolerant of both ganja and guns? Which states best protect your home and other property? Which states put more and fewer people in jail? Which states regulate the most and fewest occupations? And overall, which states interfere with your life the least? Find out where your state ranks in the Cato Institute's new report, Freedom in the 50 States.
All right, I think I got this. He makes it his business to know the government's business and how they're all up in your business so you can go about your business. Where was I going with this? Kind of lost track. Anywho, Glenn is back on the air now. Yep, there he is.
It's the Baldwin Public Radio Show, Monday edition. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. 844-700-BOLD or 2653 is the phone number. So, okay. Once again, being a liar and a hypocrite, Hillary Clinton is challenging the election results. Now, before I read this next one, I'm going to play it again because I want to remind you what she said. We're going to go back to the debate stage. Final debate between Hillary and Trump. Trump is asked, well, now, you worry about an election being rigged. Will you abide by the results of the election? And Trump basically said, it depends. Depends on what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. To that, Hillary responded,
no, that is not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them. And that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. You know, President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job. And let's be clear about what he is saying and what that means. He is denigrating, he's talking down our democracy. And I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our two major parties would take that kind of position.
Okay, so that's what Hillary said. And of course, as always, whatever she's saying, you just can't believe it. It's what's expedient to say at the time. It sounds good at the time. It gets applause at the time. Doesn't matter later. All right, with that in mind, now I'm not, if you listen to the show enough, you know I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of guy. So I look at this very cautiously. I look at this carefully. But here we go from Gateway Pundit. And they're not the only source for this, but story is Hillary Clinton schemed since the day after the election to take the presidency from Donald Trump. Story reads, Democrat Party president, nominee Hillary Clinton, may have publicly conceded the presidency to Republican nominee Donald Trump the morning of November 8th election, but behind the scenes, she was scheming with an army of operatives to find ways to take the presidency from Trump. That's one of the reasons why people have a theory. It's a theory that the reason Jill Stein suddenly got a lot of money and started this whole push to challenge the election was because she was on the phone with Hillary. And by the way, there was apparently a deal between Trump and Hillary that as soon as, I want to say it was AP News, called it, one of those news organizations called it, that the other was going to concede and that would be it. It would be over with. That was the agreement. But again, you know, you can't do a deal with Hillary because she lies. Whatever she's saying doesn't matter. All right. So in public, Clinton, the story says, acted out the part of a gracious, retiring loser being seen in photos with her supporters as she wandered in Chappaqua with her family and so on. But behind the scenes, grocery store pictures, all of that good stuff. Hillary Clinton takes selfie with fans while Thanksgiving shopping. Okay. By the way, Hillary Clinton in a grocery store shopping for food for Thanksgiving. You buy that? Please. When's the last time you honestly think that Hillary Clinton walked into a grocery store because she wanted to buy food because she wanted to cook? Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, but let's read on. Clinton campaign lawyer Mark E. Elias gave the scheme away in an article published Saturday morning, announcing Clinton would join the efforts Wisconsin Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein. And Clinton would join Stein in filing for recounts in Michigan and Pennsylvania. He wrote that starting the day after the election. So this is what someone who worked for the Clinton campaign wrote. Starting the day after the election, the Clinton campaign worked to find ways to reverse Trump's election. Those efforts continued through He writes, we have quietly taken a number of steps in the last 2 weeks to rule in or out any possibility of outside interference in the vote total in these battleground states. Since the day after the election, we had lawyers and data scientists and analysts combing over the results to spot anomalies that would suggest a hacked result. These have included analysts from both within the campaign and outside the campaign. Second, we have numerous meetings and calls with various experts to discuss and review the data and the findings. As part of this, we've also shared our data and findings with them. Most of these decisions have remained private, while at least one has unfortunately been subject to leaks. Third, we have attempted to systematically catalog and investigate every theory that has been presented to us forth, lawyers, and on it goes. Okay, you get the idea. So from the very beginning, they started looking for a rigged result or anything that they can find. Now, remember the criticism for you Trump supporters out there. Remember the criticism that Trump got when Trump said, look, this system is rigged. And the Democrats jumped all over that, but they assumed that Hillary was just going to win in some kind of a landslide. But the moment she didn't win, they were the ones who stepped up and said, well, the system is rigged. And now they're setting out to prove it. Liars, hypocrites, you want to do this? Do this. I'm just saying, liars and hypocrites.
Let off a little steam. Yep, that's why we installed phone lines into the studio. Call Glenn now. Old Republic is on the air.
Which American states are most tolerant of both ganja and guns? Which states best protect your home and other property? Which states put more and fewer people in jail? Which states regulate the most and fewest occupations? And overall, which states interfere with your life the least? Find out where your freedom in the 50 states.
Hello, Americans. Rod here with My Made in America store here in Gillette, Wyoming. Did you know if every American spent an extra $3.33 on U.S.-made goods, it would create almost 10,000 jobs here in our country? We would like to thank all those who support American jobs. You are the solution for the economic problems we have today. Don't forget to ask about our military and first responder discounts. Never forget your veterans. God bless America. Buy American. It matters. Check us out online. mymadeinamericastore.com.
Bold Republic.
The change from wishing fellow Americans Merry Christmas to wishing them Happy Holidays is a very significant development. Proponents of Happy Holidays argue it's no big deal. Proponents of Merry Christmas are making a mountain out of a molehill. But the Happy Holidays advocates want it both ways. They dismiss opponents as hysterical, but at the same time, in addition to replacing Merry Christmas with Happy Holidays, they have relentlessly pushed to replace Christmas vacation with winter vacation and Christmas party with holiday party. So then, which is it? Is all this elimination of the word Christmas important or not? The answer is obvious. It's very important. That's why so much effort is devoted to substituting other words for Christmas. And these efforts have been extraordinarily successful. In place of the universal Merry Christmas of my youth, in recent decades, I have been wished Happy Holidays by every waiter and waitress in every restaurant I have dined, by everyone who welcomes me at any business, by my flight attendants and pilots, and by just about everyone else. When I respond, thank you, Merry. Many of those I wish Merry Christmas are probably relieved to hear someone who feels free to utter the C word. But all the sensitivity training they've had to undergo creates cognitive dissonance. The opponents of Merry Christmas and other uses of the word Christmas know exactly what they're doing. They're disingenuous when they dismiss defenders of Merry Christmas as fabricating some, quote, war on Christmas. Of course it's a war on Christmas. Or more precisely, a war on the religious nature of America. The left in America, like the left in Europe, wants to create a thoroughly secular society. Not a secular government, which is a desirable goal and which in any event has always been the case in America, but a secular society. Most people do not realize that the left believes in secularism as fervently as religious Jews and Christians believe in the Bible. That's why Merry Christmas bothers secular activists. It's a blatant reminder of just how religious America is and always has been. So here's a prediction. Activists on the left will eventually seek to remove Christmas as a national holiday. Now, the left doesn't announce that its agenda is to thoroughly secularize American and European societies. Instead, they offer the inclusiveness argument that Merry Christmas or Christmas party or Christmas vacation is not inclusive. This inclusive argument plays on Americans' highly developed sense of decency, but the argument is preposterous. Who exactly is being excluded when one wishes someone Merry Christmas? Non-Christians? I'm a non-Christian. I'm a Jew. Christmas is not a religious holy day for me, but I'm an American, and Christmas is a national holiday in my country. It is therefore my holiday, though not my holy day, as much as it is for my fellow Americans who are Christian. That's why it's not surprising that it was an American Jew, Irving Berlin, who wrote White Christmas, one of America's most popular Christmas songs. In fact, according to a Jewish musician writing in the New York Times, almost all the most popular Christmas songs were written by Jews. Apparently, all these American Jews felt quite included by Christmas. By not wishing me a Merry Christmas, you are not being inclusive. You are excluding me from one of my nation's national holidays. But even if Christmas were not a national holiday, I would want pilots to wish their passengers Merry Christmas, companies to have Christmas parties, and schools to continue to have Christmas vacations. Just because I don't personally celebrate Christmas, why would I want to drop the word Christmas when the holiday is celebrated by 90% of my fellow Americans? It borders on the misanthropic, not to mention the mean-spirited, to want to deny nearly all of your fellow citizens the joy of having Christmas parties or being wished a Merry Christmas. The vast majority of Americans who celebrate Christmas and who treat non-Christians so well deserve better. So please say Merry Christmas.
It's a Monday edition of the Bold Republic Radio Show, and at this point, it's open phones rest of the way. So I've talked about what I need to talk about. You can go ahead and get whatever off your chest. 844-700-BOLD or 2653. And pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. I was so busy with the Fidel Castro thing, first hour. Debt clock.
Your national debt clock countdown for November 28th. 2016, 19 trillion, 906 billion. And now a message from future generations.
You know, if you guys tried to go out and get a credit card.
That's why it helps to have your own printing press. This has been your national debt clock count.
By the way, I'd like to thank all the liars and hypocrites out there, like, for the Clinton campaign and the people who are actually saying nice things about Fidel Castro for all of the free show prep today. It's just made my life a whole lot easier. See, I don't have a whole lot of pressure in doing the show, folks, only because I just love doing this. Okay, so I'm having a good time while I do this. And the only pressure I do feel every single day is, well, is there going to be enough good material that will really keep you guys engaged the entire program? Not whether I can talk for the length of time, 3 hours a day, but whether I have enough really good material that's going to keep your attention. Well, when Hillary Clinton goes full on out liar hypocrite and starts challenging the election results based on a rigged system, which she made fun of Donald Trump for, when he said that, I just got to laugh. Thank you, Hillary. When the left turns out and praises Fidel Castro, thank you for doing that. And I just laugh. You couldn't have given me a better present than that. It really just makes my week. I appreciate that. Let's go to North Dakota, because these people, this is a good time too. North Dakota Army Corps of Engineers. I'm sorry, President Obama, Army Corps of Engineers. I don't know. That's what they're going to close that protest camp near the North Dakota Access Pipeline. Now, I kind of wonder if that's necessary. I was looking at the radar. It might be very easy to go ahead and close the protest because they have been getting slammed by a snowstorm up there the whole weekend. It's been pretty bad, which makes me wonder how long they'll put up with it. Oh, by the way, the millennials have finally shown up to join the protest. And, you know, it's bad enough that they are that far away from a Starbucks. But as soon as things start getting cold and windy and snowy, and they actually have to exist in the real world without all of their stuff, well, you know, they're not going to last long. There's a letter provided to the tribe that says, to be clear, this means that no member of the general public, included Dakota Access Pipeline protesters, can be on the Army Corps lands. It's not near any area that is sensitive to old artifacts or burial grounds or anything like that. And it follows an existing pipeline. It says the letter that was sent to the protesters says that on land north of the river after December 5th will be trespassing and people will be removed and prosecuted. It also says anyone who stays on the land does so at their own risk. The letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, Colonel John Henderson, says closure is necessary to protect the general public from the violent confrontations between protesters and authorities, and to protect demonstrators from injuries, illness, death during North Dakota's harsh winter months. See, I don't think you really have to worry about that because I don't think most of them have the guts to stay. But okay. It also says that the area does not have necessary first responder services. Know where they are. If somebody did get sick or injured or something like that, call the authorities. We'll talk to us. North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp, Democrat, issued a statement supporting the move by the Army Corps of Engineers, criticizing the Obama administration and repeatedly misspelling the word protesters. No, really, she kept misspelling protesters. Now, look, in some cases, I can give her a pass. I'm dyslexic. My spelling is horrible. But isn't she supposed to have a staff for that? Well, okay. The decision, the story says, this is a quote from her letter. The decision by the Army Corps of Engineers is, Mr. President, Corps, is a needed step to support the safety of the residents, workers, and protesters and law enforcement, she said. Safety must remain the top priority for everyone, and on it goes. Okay. The most of the clash to have taken place between protesters and police are on public lands. Some on private lands as well, by development, not on Indian land. Protesters did try to set up a camp on private land. They were cleared out immediately by police after the company complained that they were trespassing. However, the main protest is on public land up until now. Now the federal government has had enough and said, okay, that's enough with the public land. We're pushing you guys off. Last month, there was one report that the Justice Department had quietly asked the feds not to get involved in the situation. That means the protesters could gather themselves for a showdown with police, whether they were ready, and then retreat to the camp on public lands. So this is a lot like Vietnam and Cambodia, for those of you who remember that. Yeah, so the rebels would come in and attack in Vietnam, and then they would retreat to the Cambodia where they were safe. That's what the protesters were doing, stepping out and attacking the police, then jumping back to base. This is safe. We're on base. Well, not anymore. That's not going to work anymore. Last month, the story says, there was one report that the Justice Department had quietly asked the feds not to get involved in the situation. That means the protesters could gather for that showdown there. Isaac Weston, a member of the Sioux tribe from South Dakota, he was one of several people who spoke at a news conference Saturday in response to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to discuss how to close the land down where hundreds have been camping for months. Weston says indigenous people they're wardens of the land, and the government can't remove them. He says they have the right to be there, and they are protecting the land and the water. Ish. And they're all going to be just kind of packed up and moved out of there. Now, once again, this winter storm, if you want to see what I'm talking about, just go ahead and take a look at a satellite image right now and take a look at the weather system that's churning over North Dakota. It's freezing rain, it's snow. And the temperatures are not going up in the next few days. The temperatures are going down. So this might just be perfect timing for the Army Corps of Engineers to want to just push these people out. Push these protesters out. I wonder if think, the perfect time to do this when there would be the least amount of confrontation. See, if I were the commander in charge, this is what I would do. Take a look at this lousy weather coming our way. This has got to be the perfect time just to run these people out.
Let off a little steam. Yep, that's why we installed phone lines into the studio. Call Glenn now. Old Republic is on the air.
Blood pressure tends to run higher during the day and lower during nighttime sleep. However, many with high blood pressure don't exhibit this nighttime dip, a condition called non-dipping. More in today's AARP health tip after this.
At Walgreens, getting diabetes testing supplies with Medicare Part B is a walk in the park. Really, because getting what you need is quick and easy, giving you more time for other things. There's $0 out of pocket on all major brands like Accu-Check and Walgreens TrueMetrics, and no extra paperwork. So managing diabetes becomes a stroll down Easy Street, or a trip to the movies, or even a day at the corner of
Zero out-of-pocket costs when billed to Medicare and full coverage supplemental insurance.
Non-dipping is a major risk factor for stroke, heart attack, and kidney disease. But studies show taking one or more of your prescribed blood pressure medications just before bedtime significantly decreases the risk. Of course, never change the timing of your medications without first consulting your doctor. For more, go to aarp.org.
Have you ever heard of the American Automation Association? Oh, probably not. We're a company that produces high-quality automation systems, the kind that replace employees, thus saving corporations lots of money and increasing their personal profits. Now, no doubt you've seen some of our inventions every day. The self-serve automated checkout at the grocery store, thus saving money on checkout clerks. The self-serve gas pump, that was us too. Local bank. Yep, that was us. And so many more gadgets that are behind the scenes that you may not even know about, like the automation machine at this very radio station that eliminates the need for a full-time employee to man the board. On behalf of the American Automation Association, we would like to thank the Democrat Party for pushing a minimum wage increase up to $15 an hour. Each time the minimum wage is increased, we at the AAA get more business from companies looking to get rid of their lower wage employees and replace them with automation. A $15 an hour minimum wage increase would be a boom for our business. Also, thanks for heaping piles of rules and regulations on local companies as well, and taxes and Obamacare. Thanks to socialism, business at American Automation is booming.
Every day, the government finds another way to take your hard-earned money. You feel maybe it isn't safe even in your IRA anymore? Worried that what happened in the island nation of Cyprus might happen here in America? Well, worry no more, because we've brought back an old idea, first developed back in the days of the Great Depression. It's the money mattress. Yes, the specially designed mattress with pockets inside so you can safely stuff your What is interest from a bank if the government's just going to tax it away? Sure, the bank might protect you from this kind of a thief, but the bank can't protect you from the government thieves. Money in a mattress. Our specially designed mattress allows you to tuck away your money safely and comfortably, so you don't have to worry about sleeping on hard, lumpy pockets of cash. And for those people who want extra safety and security, it's the Mattress Vault. Store your money safely. There's no better security guard than the guy who's sleeping on his own money. Keep what you've earned. Keep your money safe from greedy government thieves with the Money Mattress and the all-new Mattress Vault. On sale now.
This is a generic liner. Kind of boring, isn't it? Now back to Glenn Woods.
Monday edition, Bold Republic Radio Show. Phone number to get involved, 844-700-BOLD or 2653. For those who are living around where I am, I'm in Wyoming. If you're there or in Montana or the Dakotas, boy, speaking of weather. What to do was take the trash out to the dumpster that's right around the corner, right? And the door... Have you ever been beaten up by a door? Yeah, basically I was. I kept trying to push the door open, and the wind is blowing the door back at me. And the door was winning, and it was just beating me up. I've never been so humiliated in my life, but that's where the wind was for a while there. That's pretty bad out there. Okay, well, so I got a question for you. Very serious question. Political correctness. Is there a white people friendly version of political correctness? Now, I'm going to tell you why I say that. During the course of the weekend, I was over at Keyhole Lake. It's one of the rare few. It was actually pretty nice on Saturday. And so I went over to Keyhole Lake, and I just was walking around the lake. And for those people who know Lake Keyhole, it was up by the cliffs up there. I started at the lowest part and walked up to the highest part of the cliffs, just kind of wandering around that area. What's interesting with your friends. This really, the way the rocks form there, please come set up a picnic and we have seats for you. They're made out of rock. It's like it was carved there. It's just amazing. So I'm looking at some of the graffiti. Now, here's all I've ever asked of people who do graffiti. If you're going to go ahead and carve something into a rock or write something on the bathroom wall, could you at least think of something intelligent? Somebody always has to write the F-bomb. Somebody always has to write something dirty. So I'm looking at people who are carving things into stone. That'll be there for a very long time. And they're writing some really nasty stuff. One guy took a long time to carve in the F-bomb. It's one word really big. Really, you're going to use all that energy, and that's what you got. I'm sorry, it's not funny. I'm not impressed. You're boring me. Do something. So somebody carved a swastika into one of the rocks. Okay, that got me thinking about racism. And as I thought about it, I started lumping all of it together because I was thinking, and I went out there to relax. Folks, I didn't want to think about all this kind of stuff, but I started thinking about it because there it was. So here's the deal. There was a time that I argued, and I probably will still bring this up on occasion, that I would argue, hey, neo-Nazis, or Nazis for that matter, those are socialists. That's left-wing. That's socialism. Now, I don't care if you have these people out there who are Nazis that are the alt-right praising Trump. Those are socialists. Those are left-wing. They're just too stupid to know it. If you're a conservative, you're for limited government. You don't want big government. You want limited government. And I could get into that argument, but I thought, every time I get into that argument, we end up not talking about what we should be talking about, which was racism, which is where the whole thing began. So, okay, let's just lump it all together. Racism has been around since human beings have been around. It's nothing new. Yes, there are white people who are racist. In fact, if you go around the world, every race has those people that are guilty of racism. There's no such thing as a race of people that don't have some segment of their society that's guilty of racism. The Democrat Party wants to try to say that only conservatives are guilty of racism, but if you look at the Democrat Party even today, they blame white people for everything, which is racism. College professors are trying to convince your kids that, white people are racist, but black people can't be racist, because in order to be racist, you have to be able to institutionalize it, pass laws that affect people. That's not what racism is. Racism is if you think that you're superior to somebody else because of your race, that's racism. That's all there is to it. So, yes, we have the Klan and the Democrat Party. Yes, the Nazis were racist, obviously. Yes, the Black Panthers are racist. Yes, Black Lives Matter. They're racist. Again, on this program, they're racist as well. I've shown you college professors, when you have safe spaces that white people are not allowed to enter because it's a safe space against the oppression of white people? Really? So if a student shows up on campus and they happen to be from a white middle-class family, then that person is assumed naturally to be a racist. They can't help it. It's in their DNA. It's genetics. This is what college professors are telling your kids. And yet that's not racism? No, that's racism too. As I sat there and thought about it, I thought the argument really needs to be this. Racism, anybody can possibly be guilty of it. We had to fight against the Klan, where it used to be that we had to fight against, minorities in this country were mistreated. Now it's white people that are being mistreated. And they're being taught this racism by professors at our universities. Lump it all in together. Professors at our universities preach to your kids that are going to these universities the same kind of hate that white supremacists preach to their kids. It's the same thing. The same kind of hate that the Black Panthers preach to their kids. The same kind of hate that Black Lives Matter preaches to their kids. It's all the same thing. Then I came across this story. When I came back, started to do my Sunday research time. The headline of the article by John Sexton, Hot Air Blog, white people, is there a white people friendly version of political correctness? The story reads, many white people figure the message that they shouldn't stereotype that Black people have a lousy history, that a lot of people aren't free of racist bias, but white people feel they aren't bad people, that they're sick and tired of being told that they are, no matter what they do, that they're a racist. The idea that they are bearers of white privilege for which they must endlessly apologize. Oh, and by the way, I got to throw in, and pay reparations for. No matter what they do, or what they don't do, what they think or they don't think, it just, they feel damned if they do, damned if they don't. So McWorth is a guy who's writing this. He frames the recent election of a lot of fed up white people, many of whom are not living terribly privileged lives, giving the middle finger to the establishment, not giving the middle finger to a Black president. But what are they accused of? Well, you just didn't like a Black president, and you don't like the idea of a woman being president. That's what you're told. That's not what you were thinking, but that's what you're told. It is a woke, he writes, to understand that Trayvon Martin and so many other Black people would be alive today had they been white. That's what you're told. That's what they want to convince you. Oh, they'd be alive today if they, excuse me, but fact of the matter is Trayvon Martin charged a police officer and tried to take his gun away from him during the course of a fight with that police officer, and that's why he's dead today. The kind of racism that we see today is racism against white people. And no, there's no reason why we should put up with it. No, I'm not saying we need to get into some kind of a race war, but there's no reason that you should have to put up with it. You don't have to believe the lies. You don't have to listen to it. You're not a bad person. You're not. You're not a bad person. Just treat everybody like Martin Luther King had it right. Judge people by the content of their character. Now, if you do that, you're a good person. That's all it takes.
I'm a good person. I never bothered anybody. But I can't afford a nice house in a safe neighborhood. I live in a government high-rise. Gangbangers and drug dealers walk down our halls every day. My neighbors and I were scared. We called the police, but they can't keep us safe. Some of us are too afraid to even leave our apartments. But the housing authority told me if I bought a gun to protect myself, they throw me to the streets. If I'm not free because of my address today, what makes you think you'll be free tomorrow? I marched behind Martin Luther King at Selma. I know my rights. Now I have my gun. I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
So what's the matter, Senator? Flushing all that taxpayer money down the toilet, clogging up the drain again? And how? And nothing works when the money don't flow. And I bet flushing all that Chinese money really clogs the pipes. Oh, with interest. Yeah, Chinese money's the worst. Well, Senator, to keep that money flowing, why not try this new pipe cleaner? It's called Debt Bomb. Debt Bomb? Yes, Debt Bomb, Senator. With all the pressure building up in the pipes from all that money you're flushing down the toilet, well, there's just simply no flow. You need something to clear the clog. But don't worry, the pressure will eventually build up that you can just shove Debt Bomb. Oh, look at it go. now. Why, there's nothing left. No, Senator, there's nothing. No economy, no country, nothing. Well, you say that like it's a bad thing. Endorsed by governments worldwide. It's inevitable. Debt bomb. OldRepublic.com.
The death of Fidel Castro triggers both mourning and celebration across the world. One America's Rachel Acenas has mourned the reaction from the international community.
Critics of Castro's regime are reflecting on the negative impact of his decades-long dictatorship, while supporters are praising his achievements as a revolutionary leader.
In Spain, both pro and anti-Castro demonstrators take to the streets.
We, the working class of Spain, have met here outside the doors of the Cuban embassy in Madrid in solidarity and to remember a giant of all the peoples of the world.
During a summit in Madagascar, the French president paid tribute to Castro while also addressing concerns about human rights violations under the opening of a new chapter between Cuba and the U.S.
Fidel Castro was a great figure of the 20th century. He sparked a lot of hope with the Cuban Revolution. For a time, for many people of Latin America, but not only he was a reference. There was also some disillusionment, but he always wanted to defend Cuba with pride in the face of all exterior pressures, and in particular, the embargo which hit his country.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was also at the summit, where he called Castro a long-standing friend of his family and country.
I was lucky enough to visit Cuba just last week and meet 3 of his children and his brother, President Raul Castro. The links that bind our two countries are strong.
UK Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn also acknowledged the violation of human rights during Castro's rule, but credits him with Cuba's health and education system.
And I think the legacy of Castro will be that, but will also be this enormous figure on the world stage, the one who campaigned against apartheid and the one who brought a different language and a different set of values.
In Moscow, Russian supporters lay flowers outside the Cuban embassy.
It is a pity that such a person has passed away. We all know of him, what type of leader he was, what an orator, how beautifully he spoke. People in Cuba really loved him. They couldn't live without him. He enchanted them with his speech.
While supporters saw Castro as a tireless defender of the poor, critics claim he drove his country into economic ruin. This Russian man hopes his death means Cuba will progress as a country.
A person that put all 3 generations into just a wonderful, beautiful island that was famous all around the world. He destroyed it and turned it into something. He created a structure that is not suitable for life. I'm on the other side. Of course it is bad that he died, but I think this will be a huge push for Cuba's development.
In Argentina, supporters left messages on the gates of the Cuban embassy in Buenos Aires.
There are many opinions. Many people consider him a saint, and others as a tyrant. Depends on each person's opinion. The public opinion is very divided, I think.
While there are many different opinions about the former Cuban president, almost all can agree Castro put Cuba in the spotlight on the international stage. For One American News, I'm Rachel Acenas.
The Fair Tax is a tax replacement plan where we take all the federal income taxes, including corporate, personal, gift, and estate taxes, and replace them with one national consumption tax on new purchases above the poverty level only. This form of consumption tax comes with no exceptions and is progressive, not regressive. The poor are not paying more, and the rich are not paying less. What makes it progressive is that all Americans are untaxed up to the poverty level via the prebate, much like your standard tax deduction. The taxes are collected by retail businesses at state level, so the system is more accountable. The IRS is done away with, and you have control over your money and what the overall tax rate your household pays. The Fair Tax is revenue neutral, so the government receives the same amount of money as they do now, and it's fair because you decide what's fair, not them. To learn more, visit fairtax.org and be sure to like us on social media to help educate your friends and spread the word.
I spent almost 2 decades working for the CIA. I've seen up close what so many people don't want to imagine, the frightening reality of radical Islamic terror. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. We will never see a day for the rest of our lives where that threat doesn't hover above our heads. Because the hatred that fuels these jihadists will burn for generations. The question is, will our freedom, our privacy rights, our speech rights, our religious rights, and our gun rights, we will not be safer. But we will doom our children and grandchildren and the billions of people around the world who see America as a beacon of hope to utter darkness. Our freedom makes us great. Our freedom will keep us safe. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
I'm American. That's right. I'm American. Got a picture hanging above my fire next to the deer I shot with my rifle. NRA, hell yeah, I support them. I hate my job and I hate my boss, but I love my country and I pray to God that the Cowboys win. Just clap your hands if you love our country, if you love our land. That's right. And if you're not clapping your hands, you're a terrorist and you eat sand.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
And I live in America. Come on. And I live in America. I'm American.
Third and final hour, Bold Republic Radio Show and open phones all the way. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Let's do this. 844-700-BOLD is the phone number, or 2653. And pretty much everything I'm talking about, a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. So before we go any further, it is a Monday, so we have to get this out of the way. So across the globe, there are these Fidel Castro-loving fools that are trying to tell you what a great man he was. Hard to handle, I know. Which is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to do the bold pledge next. If you would please all rise. Now, for those who want to take a knee during this, whatever. Don't really care what you think, okay? So, go ahead, protest all you want. I don't care. So, for the rest of you, hats off, helmets off, wigs off, too, if you're wearing a wig. Toupee, yeah, you're not fooling anyone. You with the comb over, the hell are you thinking? Flop that sucker back. No one's being fooled by that. Listen, you just went through Thanksgiving dinner and your family snickered at you the whole time. For Christmas, they need to get you a haircut and get rid of that thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the bold pledge.
I, in sight name here, am a free man or woman. One or the other. Pick one. None of this gender neutral crap. I do not allow others to make rules for my life, and I mind my own friggin' business and leave others alone. I live off my own hard work. I contribute to society, and I am not a stinking mooch with 12 Obama phones. I will boldly defend the freedom and liberty our forefathers gave us, like my Uncle Vinny in World War II. You mooch is free today because of his service, so show some freaking respect. Now, with today's segment, here's Glenn Woods.
There you go. Feel better now? Yeah, this place is kind of like a safe place, but it's only a safe place because we have guns here. A diaper pin on your lapel does not make it a safe space. If you're armed and you're in control of that gun, then you are a safe space. I want to update real quick. I started the program today because we had an incident at Ohio University, and it was originally it was reported as if it was a shooting. Now, so far, there hasn't been a gun found on the scene, and authorities don't expect to find one, so that initial report of an active shooter is just simply not true, apparently. Well, if it changes, I'll let you know. But, of course, the anti-gun crowd jumped all over that immediately. Well, it turns out, and they're pretty quiet now, This guy, I thought his name might have been Mohammed. It isn't. I'm about to tell you what his name is. I'm getting this story from CNN. What he did was, he's from Somalia, by the way, drove a vehicle through a bunch of people at the university campus, jumped out with a big butcher knife and started slashing people. That's what happened. So this had nothing to do with guns or anything like that. And notice how quiet the left gets all of a sudden now that it does not involve a gun. They're suddenly not interested anymore. Here's the latest story from CNN. Ohio State, and by the way, this story was updated 4:44 p.m. Eastern time. Ohio State University officials lauded the efforts of an officer, 28 years old, stopping Monday's attacker before he could injure more people. He brought an end to the situation, the story says, in less than 2 minutes. Oh, by the way, that would be a good guy with a gun. Save. He fatally shot the attacker, an 18-year-old Ohio State student, Abdul Razak, R-A-Z-A-K, Razak Ali Ataran. That's his full name. We'll just call him Abdul. When he failed to comply with orders to put down his knife. 11 people were hospitalized as a result of the attack. Authorities still investigating his motive. The suspect with the Ohio State University attack rammed his car into a group of pedestrians, then jumped out with a butcher knife and started running around cutting people. At least 9 people hospitalized, including one in critical condition. Quote, victims injured included stab wounds to the body. Some by the motor vehicle, of course, were hit by that. They were injured there in the hospital as well. U.S. officials say the suspect was a legal permanent resident, but an immigrant from Somalia. And so once again, I'm looking at it saying, well, okay, just sounds to me like he wasn't properly vetted. But now again, notice it's really quiet on the left. It's really quiet on the left. The moment it does not involve a gun anymore. Okay. For those people who were praising Fidel Castro, dear God, hell's your problem? Murdering dictator like that, do they just blindly turn away from history? Do they just not know or not want to hear? Well, okay. And here's another country, a communist dictatorship, where the only fat people in the country are those people in the inner circle of the communist dictatorship. Quite literally, everybody else is starving, including the children. Here's the story from Hot Air Blog. When the news of Fidel Castro's death broke around the globe, Venezuelan president quickly chimed in. Here's his tweet. Everything's done on Twitter these days. You know what I ought to do instead of a radio talk show? Maybe I ought to just sit on Twitter and type for 3 hours a day. Just a thought. So he says, what's the translation here? I've just spoken with President Raul Castro, said the president of Venezuela, to convey solidarity and love to Cuba following the departure of Fidel Castro. Story reads, it's rather amazing that at any other time he would, to mourn his passing friend. After all, one might imagine the government of Venezuela is rather busy at the moment. Yeah, people are trying to leave the country because they need, basic things like food. It was one thing, I was having a good time joking when they just ran out of toilet paper. That was bad enough. But it was fun. I mean, okay, things were in short supply and they started running out of toilet paper. That was funny. It was fun. I was having a good time with it. But now they're out of food. They're out of medicine. And people, nowhere else to go. They're just packing up and walking out of the country. Welcome to communism, folks. But once again, there are people who are defending Venezuela. I don't get it. How do you turn away from that? How do you deny that that's what's going on? All right. Venezuela, the story says, was one of Latin America's richest countries, flush with oil wealth, and it attracted immigrants from places as far away as Europe and the Middle East. But after President Hugo Chavez vowed to break the country's economic elite, which he did, and redistribute the wealth to the poor, what that means is theft. A redistribution of wealth is theft. The rich and the middle class fled in droves, creating a demographic of, people who, read Atlas Shrugged, for God's sakes. What happens in Atlas Shrugged when the rich people pack up and leave? For those people who don't know Atlas Shrugged, here's the gist of the story. And this was written it was published in like 1950 or something like that. Richest people of the world, the movers, the shakers of the world, just started disappearing. I mean, imagine all of the people who are heads of the biggest tech companies in the world. We'll start with that technology company. Then all of those people involved in transportation and manufacturing, all really mega rich, top of the line thinkers, they just basically liquidated their assets, closed their businesses, and disappeared. And then the people who were their top workers, generals, the top echelon, the blue suits, they started doing the same thing. What would happen to the world? It would collapse. And what's happening is basically these people are going on strike. They're tired of being blamed for everything when they're the reason that we're all doing so well. Where would we be without great inventors, Microsoft, Apple, and think of great inventions in transportation and communications, and on it goes. And they're the ones who become the millionaires and billionaires, but they're creating all of this stuff that you and I are enjoying that's making our lives so easy. That's essentially what Venezuela did. It was right out of Atlas Shrugged. The government came along and blamed the rich people for all the misery that the country wasn't having. And so basically the government seized all of the property of the rich people. We're now going to distribute the wealth. And so the rich people just said, okay, fine, we're out. And they left. Well, you don't have the producers anymore. And the government doesn't know how to produce. And so what's happened to Venezuela? Same thing that happens to every other communist country. They're starving. And now the average everyday Joe citizen in Venezuela, they're packing up and leaving too for no other reason that they're hungry. New York Times, even as far as when they first started this to today, it's heartbreaking what's happening to the refugees that are now packing up and leaving the country, quite literally carrying whatever possessions they can carry with them. And they're just packing up and walking out of Venezuela and going to any place that has food, clothing, shelter, the basics. Before communism, they had more than that. With communism, who wants to sit there and watch their child starve while the leaders at the top get fat? It's the same thing, by the way, that's happened in North Korea. There's one fat person in North Korea, Kim Jong-un. And before him, his father. And before him, his father. Everybody else is starving. And yet there's still people who praise communism. And you got to wonder what their mental disorder is.
A radio show? Yeah. Tip of the iceberg. Check out the YouTube videos. See what Glenn's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can find out more at boldrepublic.com.
Blood pressure tends to run higher during the day and lower during nighttime sleep. However, many with high blood pressure don't exhibit this nighttime dip, a condition called non-dipping. More in today's AARP health tip after this.
At Walgreens, getting diabetes testing supplies with Medicare Part B is a walk in the park. Really, because getting what you need is quick and easy, giving you more time for other things. There's $0 out of pocket on all major brands like Accu-Check and Walgreens TrueMetrics, and no extra paperwork. So managing diabetes becomes a stroll down Easy Street, or a trip to the movies, or even a day at the beach. Talk to your pharmacist today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Zero out-of-pocket cost when billed to Medicare and full coverage supplemental insurance.
Non-dipping is a major risk factor for stroke, heart attack, and kidney disease. But studies show taking one or more of your prescribed blood pressure medications just before bedtime significantly decreases the risk. Of course, never change the timing of your medications without first consulting your doctor. For more, go to aarp.org.
You critics don't define our honor. You try to shame us for doing our job. You teach children to fear us, crowds to attack us, and good people to doubt us. But we will never back down from our sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We wake up every day, put on our badge, strap a gun to our hips, and put our lives between the law-abiding and any criminal who threatens their rights. We serve people of every color and creed, men, women, and children in violent, dangerous neighborhoods, because they have the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as CEOs, movie stars, and the political elite. We are Americans, and we are the American police officer. We stand with the National Rifle Association of America, and the NRA stands with us. Together, we're freedom's safest place.
Have you ever heard of the American Automation Association? Oh, probably not. We're a company that produces high-quality automation systems, the kind that replace employees, thus saving corporations lots of money and increasing their personal profits. Now, no doubt you've seen some of our inventions every day. The self-serve automated checkout at the grocery store, thus saving money on checkout clerks. The self-serve gas pump, that was us too. No need for an attendant. The ATM machine at your local bank. Yep, that was us. And so many more gadgets that are behind the scenes that you may not even know about, like the automation machine at this very radio station that eliminates the need for a full-time employee to man the board. On behalf of the American Automation Association, we would like to thank the Democrat Party for pushing a minimum wage increase up to $15 an hour. Each time the minimum wage is increased, we at the AAA get more business from companies looking to get rid of their lower wage employees and replace them with automation. A $15 an hour minimum wage increase would be a boom for our business. Also, thanks for heaping piles of rules and regulations on local companies as well, and taxes and Obamacare. Thanks to socialism, business at American Automation is booming.
This is a generic liner. Kinda boring, isn't it? Now back to Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Public Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Hey, don't forget during the course of the week and even the weekend, we're constantly posting new stuff. Bold Republic Radio Show just rolls on. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. BoldRepublic.com. Show archive, special YouTube bits. And it's not always just news related. Don't forget to check out the daily weirdness page at BoldRepublic.com. I mean, there is just too much to do there. And it's there where you can get a lot of information but have a good time at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, Al Gore would like to regale you with his fine dulcet tones in these times when his entire business is in jeopardy because, frankly, no one's believing him anymore, or very few people are. There's always going to be a couple. Al Gore with his one-hit song.
Driving a big car, I come on your radio. I say the end's close. You just say no. I say it's global warming, but you call me a liar. But this planet's on fire.
So here's the latest. Oh, I got to get this. I'm about to hit you with something about Antarctica that really just tears apart everything that's you've ever learned about Antarctica. What is fact, what's fiction. But I'll get to that in just a second. I got to read you this. And I promised this guy that I was going to read it on air. See, I get emails, a lot of them, all the time. And occasionally, as you can imagine, because this show, I offer my opinion, a lot of these emails are just jerks. I mean, just complete jerks that send me these emails. I kind of enjoy it because what I wrote back to him very politely is, you basically just proved to me who you are. Well, here's what happened. I had made a video when it first snowed, the first real snow that we got of the season here in Gillette, Wyoming, that first real snow, I had to go somewhere, and I get in a big old SUV, a Yukon, and I'm just driving across town to go get something. And man, it is slick as snot out there. Snow's piling up. And so I just turned the camera on, the video camera on in the SUV, and just started talking about what we've learned over the years about climate change. And one of the points that I brought up is, first off, there's no such thing as a climate denier or climate change denier. Everybody understands that the climate has been changing for billions of years. The argument is whether man is causing catastrophic climate change, and no, 97% of scientists do not believe it's true. Furthermore, I called off some predictions. It was predicted that by now snow would be such a rare event that kids wouldn't know what it was. And so when it happened, you'd have to explain it to them. Well, kids perfectly well know what snow is. So that's not a problem either. Then I pointed out Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio, and I made a whole list of other people are complete climate hypocrites. They own multiple mega mansions, SUVs, limousines. Oh, no, we have to reduce our carbon. You have to reduce your carbon footprint, or you're a bad person. These people don't believe their own words. They're hypocrites. So this guy decided to respond to me. He sent me an email. His name is Don. Don wrote, I watched your video on climate change and laughed about your foolish display. You are such a blanking idiot, and immoral scumbag, and a goof. You're truly, not even yours truly, you're truly, Dan Slater. P.S. A normal idiot can never be rich. An idiot without a moral center can be. I don't even know what was that directed at me? I don't get what that was supposed to be about, but all right. And so I wrote back to Don and I said, well, thank you for showing me who you really are. So in other words, what I did was in this short little video, which is a couple minutes long, I made the case. I showed that people like Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio and President Obama and so many others are just complete climate hypocrites. And many of the predictions, most of the predictions that have been made about climate change, well, they never came true. In fact, in many cases, the opposite happened of the prediction. I presented facts. And I said, Don, what you did was you responded to me by doing nothing but insulting me, even throwing foul language out, but you didn't offer a fact. You didn't offer an argument. What you've done is shown me what kind of person you are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your email and I'm going to read it on the air so everybody knows what kind of person you are. And now you do. This is a person who's not, I'm going to go out on a limb here because I've never met this guy, who is incapable of having an intelligent discussion. Now, we had a guy named Gus. Hope he's still out there. I haven't heard from him about a week. Hope he's just on vacation or something like that. He's from over in Casper area. And he called this show, and he disagrees with me when it comes to man-made climate change. And so we've been having this back and forth discussion. And even though we disagree with each other on a lot of points, it's been a very polite discussion. And we're both pulling up facts and statistics and arguing what we know. There's a big difference, isn't there, between Gus.
Kind of boring, isn't it?
Hello, Americans. Rod here with my Made in America store. Remember when you had to go to an import store to buy things made in the USA? Today, it's the other way around. With your help, we can change that. From flags to clothing to artwork, kitchenware, kids' toys. Let's put America back to work. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com. Never forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters.
Stan, why are you wearing a sweater with a bullseye?
It's hunting season.
So,
And there are hunters everywhere.
okay, but why the bullseye?
If everyone's been shopping at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports,
That's bad.
the way I figure it, we don't stand a chance.
Oh, good point. We don't stand a chance.
Might as well give them a clean shot. With everything you need for hunting season, Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, with locations in Casper, Gillette, Riverton, Sheridan, and Cody, Wyoming. Nice knowing you, Frank.
You too, Stan.
Bold Republic.
I'm sad and I'm angry and I don't look at facts. I haven't looked at many facts. It's just I feel bad.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I've gotten my way all my life. I've been pampered all my life. I don't know how to cope with this.
And how does that make you feel?
Hey there, everybody. Maybe you're wondering why on earth I have all this random crap sitting here. Well, that's because today I'm going to be talking about a lot of crap. I'm going to be talking about my generation. Hey there, everyone. My name is Hunter Avalone, and today I'm going to be calling out my generation. Because, quite honestly, my generation sickens me. And sometimes I think suicide would be the better answer than to continue and try and live through this hellhole. Young adults in their 20s were fighting in World War II, risking their lives for their country. Now it's 2016, and young adults in their 20s need safe spaces, handouts, and are offended by everything, including America itself. For example, elite schools are now offering these coddled kids counseling after Trump won the election. Boo-hoo! You are in high school, or you are in college. You're an adult now, and you need counseling because you didn't get your own little stupid way? Are you freaking kidding me right now? Our students brought a great deal of emotion, anxiety, and strong feelings, of course they did, into the building with them this morning that we made every effort to acknowledge and respect, Clark said. Well, Clark, whoever you are, you're a freaking moron, and you're part of the problem. You are helping my generation to become less and less like adults and more like children. Stop making every effort to acknowledge their dumb little feelings and start acknowledging the facts. Once again, we see a school putting feelings above everything else. Feelings change and feelings are fluent. They simply cannot dictate a course of action. So honestly, screw these whiny kids' little feelings. Maybe your teacher treats you like little kids, but I'm not going to. Emotions were also a mess at the Little Red Schoolhouse. And is anybody really surprised by this? I mean, of course emotions were a mess. These kids are having every effort made to acknowledge and respect their little feelings. Quite honestly, and I think this is something my generation really needs to hear, feelings do not deserve respect. It's not just given. So once you stop acting like little children and start acknowledging the facts, then maybe, just maybe, your feelings will be somewhat respected. And now we're to the point where even American-themed barbecue events are deemed as offensive on college campuses. Well, oh no! I mean, a feminist might be at that barbecue and then see a hot dog and be reminded of a penis and then think about the patriarchy and then start screaming rape. I mean, come on, guys. How am I supposed to have my 4th of July cookout now? I mean, that's just parties, divisive and harmful. Yep, that is so offensive. Oh man, whoa, yikes. Oh no, loud noises might hurt somebody's ears. Now, similar to what I was talking about before, some of this behavior from my generation is not coming just from them, but it's coming from the way they are raised. For example, this Maryland campus saying that American-themed parties are harmful or whatever came from the dean, not from the students. The university's dean of students said America-themed events provide an opportunity for students to dress or behave in a way that offends or oppresses others. Yep, we are definitely in retardville. The Great Globe has spoken. Odds are that someone else is most likely a privileged little brat. So when these obviously young adults are having their feelings constantly respected and acknowledged no matter what, and their deans and their teachers constantly intervening for them, they are raised to believe that they are the center of attention. They are raised in an echo chamber where all they hear are their own ideas. And my generation believes that anything that doesn't feel right is instantly offensive. And what do they do when they don't get their way? They riot, they protest, and they act like retarded children throwing a temper tantrum in the aisle of Kmart. Seriously, my generation, it's time to hit puberty. It's time to grow up. Please, stop acting like little babies. Act like adults now. Right now, I'm 20 years old. And yes, I know I look a little bit younger, but seriously, I'm 20 years old. And in a few years from now, I'm probably going to be married. And a few years from then, I'm probably going to have kids. I don't want my kids raised in a world where their feelings are the only thing that's being acknowledged and their feelings are the center of everything.
Last half hour ish. 25 minutes or so. Something like that. Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. 844-700-BOLD's the phone number, or 2653 if you don't want to go hunting and pecking for all of those letters out there. Fine by me. Play it however you want to play it. Here we go. Antarctic sea ice has not shrunk in 100 years. You were told otherwise. All right, let me give you the gist of the story. We'll get to the Reader's Digest version of it. So somebody came across some records because 100 years ago, there were ships, sailing ships and researchers and so on, and they were heading down to Antarctica to explore and learn all they could about Antarctica. And when they got down there, they took pictures and whatever they could do, made measurements. Okay, they did what they could to keep records of what they saw down there. Now, after that period of time, sea ice continued to be examined and measured. And there was a period where Antarctica lost some sea ice. And then it came back. And then it lost some. And then it came back, and on and on. Now, remember what I told you about the global warming trend. For the past almost 20 years now, we have not had any global warming. Now, yes, there have been some hot years in the past 20 years, very hot years. And in the past 20 years, there have been some very cold years. When you graph it out, you find that the line does not trend up. It does not trend down. For the past 20 years, we've flatlined. You can't just say, well, this year was the hottest year on record, therefore that proves global warming. No, you have to back up and take a look at it over decades at the very least to find out which way it's trending. Because again, there's hot years, there's cold years, there's warm years, there's dry years. And it turns out the trend is not going up or down, it's flatlined. There is not right now any global warming. There is not right now any global cooling. Now, at some point, that's going to change. At some point, because that's the way the planet Earth is, the graph is going to start trending down, or it might start trending up. You are actually right now living in kind of a cool, calm period. Now you're being told there's more weather events than ever before. They're more tragic than ever before. There's more hurricanes. There's more tornadoes. No, there's not. You're actually living in a rather cool, calm period. In fact, wait, let's get a load of this here. I'm going to go to Facebook, Bold Republic page on Facebook, because I just posted this before I came on the air. And scroll this puppy down here. It's about hurricanes, and it's the latest numbers that came in on hurricanes. And it shows that it's 11 years from NOAA. No major hurricanes have hit the U.S. in the past 11 years. Now, if you're thinking, yeah, we've had hurricanes. No, we've had hurricanes. I'm not arguing it. Yes, we have. The last major hurricane was 11 years ago, and that was Hurricane Katrina. Story reads, a spokesman for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The Department of Commerce agencies focus on the conditions of the oceans and atmosphere issued a statement October 24th. observing that a major hurricane has not struck the United States in 11 years. Dennis Felton, spokesman for NOAA, National Hurricane Center, said, I can confirm that as of October 24th, 2016, it will be a complete 11 years since a major hurricane has struck the United States, as defined by, a Category 3 or higher. The current streak of no major hurricane landfalls into the U.S. mainland remains intact. The last one to do so actually was Hurricane Wilma, October 24, 2005. So I stand corrected. Other hurricanes that landed in that time frame include Sandy, Matthew. They were lower in wind and intensity. By the way, every time you hear Superstorm Sandy, there was no such thing as a Superstorm Sandy. That never existed. Sandy was wimpy, and it hit a nor'easter coming the other direction, and the two storms combined over some tiny little barrier islands, which is why the damage looked so bad. Now, October 24th, a report on CNS News noted that many climate scientists had predicted that human-caused global warming due to an increase in CO2 in the atmosphere would produce an increase in the number and intensity of hurricanes. They expect 4 and 5 level events, and they were predicting, we might have to we might have to make a category higher than 5. Okay. Now, so you haven't had any major storms hit the United States in the past 11 years. Global temperatures, when you graph it out, we are not warming, we are not cooling. We have been flatlined for almost 20 years. When you go to Antarctica and look at the ice over the past 100 years, there have been years where Antarctica has gained. There have been years where Antarctica has lost ice. And when you graph it out over the past 100 years, we have no increase. We do not have a decrease. It's flatlined over the past 100 years. Compare that to what you've been told. Compare that to what you've been told. Okay, so you're not getting the news as it really is. Now, here's the good news for you. You've heard, of course, 97% of scientists agree the science is settled, the debate is over. Yeah, they always say that. Cults always say that. And this climate thing is a cult. That's what that is. Cults always say stuff like that. So you're dealing with a climate cult. And cult leaders always live, like Al Gore is a cult leader. Cult leaders always live the same way, don't they? They live rich and demand everything of their followers. You're supposed to give all. Your home, your money, really sacrifice everything. While those at the top, like Al Gore, live in multiple mansions, limousines. Doesn't that sound, you ever turn on the television and you watch one of these and look at how they live and how they take advantage of the sheeple that follow them. But here's the good news. When you take a look at the actual numbers, if you are not a believer in man-made climate change, you are in the majority. Same for scientists out there causing catastrophic climate change. That is a fact. Very few people actually believe it. Now, to be clear, many people, when they hear me say stuff like that, well, you got to take care of the planet, I never said anything about not taking care of the planet, and I certainly don't want to pollute the planet. By the way, CO2 is not a pollutant. So I certainly don't want to pollute the planet. Okay, so there's the good news for you. We've been flatlined for about 100 years now. Hurricanes are not at an all-time high, nor is the temperature. Yeah, the weather kind of sucks outside right now. Here comes a snowstorm.
A radio show? Yeah. Tip of the iceberg. Check out the YouTube videos. See what Glenn's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can find out more at boldrepublic.com.
Hello, Americans. Rod here with my Made in America store. Remember when you had to go to an import store to buy things not made in the USA? Today, it's the other way around. With your help, we can change that. At my Made in America store, we stock only USA-made products. From flags to clothing to artwork, kitchenware, kids' toys. Let's put America back to work. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com. Never forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters.
Howdy, folks. This is Swede from Swede Specialties here in Gillette, and I'm here today with Mr. Wimpy. Mr. Wimpy, have you ever tried a home-brewed beer?
Oh, no, I only like Wimpy beer.
Would you like to try a home-brewed beer, Mr. Wimpy?
Well, okay, but just a sip. It looks kind of dark.
Just close your eyes and try it. Whoa. Well, Mr. Wimpy, what do you think of homebrew? Now that's real beer, Pilgrim. So give Swede a call, 307-686-0588, or go to SwedeSpecialties.com.
Hi, this is Sal from the Liberal Clearinghouse, inviting you to come on down and get what you can before it all goes. Remember, the Liberal Clearinghouse is staffed by unemployed college students and Common Core dropouts. So it's pretty much self-serve down here. We have a wide selection of broken wind turbines, solar panels, unsold electric cars. Get them before they catch on fire. For the internet junkies, we have special deals on government-produced internet viruses, surveillance software, and crashed websites. Everything must go. Are you an unemployed doctor or a patient that can't afford an unemployed doctor? We have them both. We have abandoned HUD homes, abandoned tenant houses, abandoned skyscrapers, abandoned cities like Detroit, and abandoned websites like Obamacare. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We are borrowing money from the grandkids tomorrow so that you can afford the subsidies to purchase today. So come see the Liberal Clearinghouse today before it winds up on the scrap heap of tomorrow. Thank you.
Birds, let's face it, they're annoying. They're everywhere, filling the skyways and dropping their little droppings on our automobiles, on our homes, and causing billions of dollars of damage every single year, eating gardens right down to the nub, including the seeds. And of course, we've all seen Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The Birds. Yes, birds cost the American economy billions of dollars every year in damage, and billions of dollars to our economy by slowing down traffic at airports, and even bringing down planes by dangerously flying into the engines. So how do we rid the skyways of these pesky creatures? We've found a way. Windmills are the answer. Yes, environmentally friendly because they don't use pesticides. Massive churning windmill blades bring down birds by the hundreds every single day. And thanks to Barack Obama's incentives and subsidies, windmill farms are now popping up around the country. Last year alone, we killed over 500,000 of these pesky creatures. Maybe right in your own backyard. Join us, won't you? Call your congressman. Ask for more windmills and more windmill subsidies so we can rid the skies of these pesky, costly nuisance creatures we call birds. Brought to you by the Coalition for Cleaner, Safer Skies.
Everything Glenn talks about is on his website, and that website is updated daily to keep you informed and scared. BoldRepublic.com. Back to Glenn Woods.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. Last 9.5 minutes of the program. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So, lots to cover during the course of the week. I wish I could sit here and say to you, aren't you glad the elections are over? Here comes hypocritical Hillary once again. It's just going to be fun. I'm not going to sit here and try to predict. I just have this idea that there's no way that her recount effort is going to change any kind of results. She's certainly welcome to it. But you guys, during the course of these next couple of weeks, can have such a good time picking on your Democrat friends. And the level of hypocrisy that you complained when Trump said the system was rigged, and he may or may not abide by the election results depending on what happens. So here's Hillary saying that the results are possibly rigged and she's not going to abide by the election results, even though she demanded that Trump do it. So you guys have a good time with that, okay? I find it fun. Look, there's a couple of times kinds of hypocrisy. We all have been guilty of it at some point. There's a kind of hypocrisy when you don't know you're being hypocritical. It's just kind of stupid. You oppose something, there's something you stand up against, and then one day you have someone points out, but isn't that what you're doing? And you go, oh God, really? I didn't realize I was being hypocritical. And so you change your behavior. See, that's when you're a good person. Now, there's other people, they damn well know they're being hypocritical, but they just keep on doing it. They lie, they're hypocritical. And here's where the mental disorder comes in. When they lie to themselves that they're not lying and that they're not being hypocritical. When that happens, you know there's a problem. There's some disorder at work there. All right. Last headline, I think, for a Monday from PJ Media. I've already told you the story, but this is the update here. Headline is Mother Sues for Right to Stop Her Own Child's Gender Transition. A Minnesota woman who did not report her son as a runaway, even though he was gone from home for 6 months. That's a problem. Filed suit against him to stop the 17-year-old from becoming a girl, as well as several government agencies from helping him in gender switching surgery. Is this a minor? Has the state then seized control of the child? For what reason? Here's a quote. It was brought to my knowledge that my son began receiving hormone replacement treatments from a health services center to transition from male to female, with medical assistance paying for this. I was not consulted about this in any way. Lawsuit filed on the 16th of November challenges a Minnesota law that allows minors to get medical care without a consent from their parents, even though the state does not have an emancipation process for children who want to break away from mom and dad. Clearly, this God-given, and this is a quote here, constitutionally protected parental rights have been violated, says Child Protection League. And the mom's responsibility to care for her son's physical and emotional health and safety have been blocked by the action of these agencies. She has been denied a chance to plead her case in court. Oh, wow. No due process. Now, see, there, I think, is the big problem here. Not allowed a day in court. No due process? Really? You're denying the mom due process. Now, you know your government's gone over the line. It's bad enough when they take the kid and start doing things without the parents' permission. But when the parents show up to have a day in court, and the government will not even allow that, now you know that you have some kind of a problem. So the attorney said the teenager is going from boy to girl without his mother's consent and without a court order. It's just as if this government agency, Child Protective Services, just took over and started to do it. No court was involved. Mother was not involved. Quote, this is an outrageous abuse of power by multiple agencies, said President Chief Counsel of the Thomas More Society. To treat a minor child without either a parental consent or a court order of emancipation is a violation of the trust in the system and constitutional rights. Now, here's why I have one minor disagreement with that. Who out there has trust in the system? Yeah, I kind of lost that a long time ago. And for exactly these reasons. Lawsuit named 2 medical services providers as co-defendants, charging they provided the teenager with medical treatment for a sex change from male to female and for prescribed narcotics. The medical services and drugs were paid through the St. Louis Public Health and Human Services. Now, let's just stop for a minute. I saw, you got to be careful about stuff like this. I saw a protest. It was a picture of a protest, really. And somebody was holding up a cardboard sign that said, you don't need to have a uterus to be a woman, or you don't need to have a vagina to be a woman. And I looked at it and thought, well, what you got to be careful of, it is so easy to Photoshop that stuff. So I looked at it and thought, is that a real sign? Is somebody really saying it? So I looked into it a bit and found that whether that sign of that protester is true or not, there are people out there who honestly believe that you can have male body parts and only male body parts. But because you feel like a woman, you are to be treated as a woman. And there, once again, I'm sorry, folks, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to play this game. I am a reality-based person. So, Bruce Jenner puts on a dress and high heels and a wig. Call me Caitlyn. If that's what Bruce Jenner wants to do with his life, walk around as a woman and say, call me Caitlyn, he has every right to do that. It's not my business. I'm not going to get involved. I have one thing to say about it, one thing only. I'm not going to call him Caitlyn. His name is Bruce. That is a guy in a dress. Okay, so no, I'm not going to play that game. If some man is walking around, he's got male body organs, male body parts, but he has been attracted to women his entire life. He acts very effeminate and likes dressing up like a woman, so you would call him trans or a tranny or whatever you want to call him. Fine. That's okay. I'm not going to bother with it. It is not my business. I don't care. I have no opinion on it. He can do whatever he wants to do, but I'm not going to call him or her. Now, when it comes to the bathroom issue, we've been down this road before. It's really simple. I like to simplify things. Male body parts into that bathroom, female body parts into that bathroom. You all know the rule. Men, you know the rules in the men's room. Eyes forward, do what you got to do, no talking. That's basically the rules of a men's room. So if you are somebody if you're a man who's attracted to other men, you still go into the bathroom with male body parts and the rules are the same. Eyes front, no talking. It's as simple as that. As far as having the sex change operation, when this kid that I was just talking about in Minnesota reaches legal age, which apparently is about a year away, is at 18, I believe 18 in Minnesota. This kid's 17 years old. This kid can take his own money and do whatever he wants. If he wants to get a sexual change, go ahead. He can take his own money. He can do whatever he wants. Not on the taxpayer's dime. That's another problem I have with the whole story that I just gave to you. This is all of this gender reassignment surgery and hormone treatments and all of that. It's being done on the taxpayer's dime without the mother's permission, and she doesn't get her day in court. Are you kidding me? And you wonder why there was such a rejection of the Democrat philosophy. Oh, I'm not a big fan of the Republicans either, mind you. But there was such a geez, boy, we flipped in that election, didn't we? People are just sick of this. I mean, honestly, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Same time, same radio stations.